Hey guys, good morning. Happy Juneteenth. We are doing the catch up for Karen Reed because we got a free day. Why not? And it's only like 3 hours long. So we're going to take care of that. Get caught up. Today is the voir dire part of things for Karen Reed's defense experts. The court set aside a whole day, and we're going to get into that because the defense is claiming they have no way of knowing exactly what these experts are going to talk about, what they're testifying to ultimate reports. Now, whether or not that's true, that is the case. When you have expert witnesses, you have to provide their findings, their expert opinions, the reports they use to create that opinion, and you have to provide to the other side. You have to give them notice. The one I don't know, because I don't know the story behind it, is this doctor. Well, that doesn't help. The medical doctor who's going to say, "Oh, these aren't dog bite marks," or are dog bite marks. She got disclosed very late, so we'll see what that's all about. So, anyways, let's get started. We have day 27, so here we go. Also, some people are here. Those 11 hours really flew by, yeah. Cases, I watched an extreme last night. I watched it this morning. I was up for a little bit. I thought about it. I changed my mind. I was going to watch it. And then, 2.0 and we went to bed, and then we woke up this morning and watched it. I don't know. He is the mayor of Copenhagen at this point. I said Noel said he confirmed those documents to be 100% authentic, and then Nick comes out and says, "Oh, documents were leaked, but everything on them's bullshit." I'm like, okay, and there's real truth out there. No, the real truth is what's on those documents. And whole lad, I won't. I don't think I should be airing them, but god damn, those are horrible fucking things that have happened. There's no fucking excuse for any of that that's on those documents. There's nothing you can tell me, or there's nothing you're gonna tell anybody where they go, "Oh, okay, that makes sense." No. Holy Jesus. So, yeah. It's all I mean, it's fucking disgusting what happened there. And he keeps on telling everybody, "Oh, there's real story." No, there is the real story. There's a real story, and then it sounds like what you're gonna say. And people who are taking the government, it's like, I've seen this a million times. I've also seen a bunch of the evidence. We've all seen a bunch of the evidence, so it's not like we're just taking this all in the blind. Come on now. Mindset's going live about in a little while. Maybe I'll talk to him. I don't know what he's doing. Ultimately, though, he needs to stop talking about his case. That's the biggest thing he can do. He needs to stop talking about it. Because denying stuff and saying it's all made up, that's an admissible statement. Like, it's all fake. That doesn't help you either. Just, he's got to stop. Pick topics. Pick a talk about something else. Like, talk about your car. I don't know. Talk about something. Don't talk about this case or your children's services case. Like, don't talk about any of it. It's easy enough. So, that's all I can say. And I have a feeling it's only going to get worse the more we learn. So let's get to this. People told me this is going to be really good. So, ooh. We just like burned up 45 minutes of like dead time. Oh, all right.
Thank you. Maybe see the close now session.
22-117, the Commonwealth versus Karen Reed.
All right. Good morning, counsel. Ms. Reed. Are all of the witnesses here, Mr. Jackson?
They are, you are.
I'd like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Are you both prepared to?
No, I'm so sorry. I could not hear you.
I would like to hear from Dr. Russell first. Is that her name?
Russell. Dr. Russell, yes. The order would be, I would propose based on scheduling Dr. Russell, Dr. Wolf, Dr. Rachel.
Okay, then that's good because that's the order I prefer. So, all right. Do you have a CV for her? Good morning. Morning, Tori. Do you have a CV I could look at for her, please?
Let me see if I got it in my notebook. I thought I did. Yes, I do.
And she has not written a report?
She's not.
All right, let's bring her in, please.
Your Honor, before we get started, can I get an understanding? You started to say it at sidebar the other day, and you said you wanted to put that off to get to the witnesses. But I need a little bit of an understanding of what the court's expectations are. My understanding of voir dire, which this seems to be unusual in terms of the timing of it.
The understanding of the voir dire is this is for the Commonwealth's motion to exclude this testimony. All right, that's what we're here for, the Rule 14 violation.
Is that the same with Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rachel?
Well, I thought that would help both of you. The Commonwealth has nothing on that, and you say you haven't been able to even talk to them at all about this case.
That's correct.
So I want to find out if they have any credible, competent evidence to put forward. So we'll have a voir dire on them as well. But for Dr. Russell, what we're doing here today is there's an alleged there appears to me to be a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of defense counsel regarding Dr. Russell. So let's hear from her today to see what the appropriate remedy is for this violation.
So my intention is to ask her so I have, the court understands my sort of guardrails. My intention is to ask her what her qualifications are, which is that's the basis for voir dire. And that's where I'm going to stop. I'm not intending to ask her what her opinions are, conclusions. I'm going to ask her if she's come to opinions and conclusions, but I don't have to examine her concerning her full opinions or full conclusions, what she's based those conclusions on. It's unfair. We've provided the defense everything that the prosecution, everything that we need to provide to them in terms of disclosure. They've got the equivalent of the report. They've got a summary of what she's going to testify to.
When was that provided? My order was 1 week from the start of trial, right?
But we didn't, Your Honor, in fairness, they didn't even finish their discovery 1 week before the start of trial. So it's a little unfair for us to be put on the stand.
1 week from the filing of the certificate of compliance.
Well, I don't know when I can't remember. My co-counsel indicates it was the day before trial.
Okay.
So during the course of the trial is a dynamic thing. During the course of the trial, I did not know who Dr. Marie Russell was at the time that they filed their certificate of compliance. We then attempted to and did give them the reciprocal discovery that we were obligated to do after they filed their certificate of compliance.
When?
Within 3 days of that. We had been giving them information prior to that, but at least within 3 days of that. We've continued, so the record's clear, we've continued to get additional discovery from the Commonwealth in notices of discovery throughout the trial. They have not finished. In fact, during the trial, they interviewed Jen McCabe, apparently, had a full interview with her. Lieutenant Tully took a report, dated the report, and then they held on to that report until after she testified. The interview, the report, and the completion of the report were all done before her testimony.
Do you need to call her again?
Your Honor, that's not my, and I think the court understands, that's not my point. My point is not, I need to call Jennifer McCabe back. I've done the damage that needs to be done on Jennifer McCabe. The point is,
I'm sorry, I missed that. You've what?
I've done the damage that needed to be done on Jennifer McCabe. I don't need to call her back. The point is that what's good for the goose is good for the gander. The Commonwealth doesn't get to stand in the position of piecemealing and feeding us information, reports, discovery throughout the course of the trial. And by the way, when we then got seminal information about an expert that we did not know about, never met, never heard of, within 3 days of that, we provide everything that we have about that witness to the Commonwealth. They can't then turn around and say, oh, well, it's all the defense's fault. So we want to have a voir dire, which means that the euphemism for that voir dire is we want to have two bites at the apple.
Okay.
We want to be able to completely cross-examine her, then go back to our expert. And if she testifies, cross-examine her again after consulting with our expert. That's 2 bites at the apple, and that's not fair. If the court wants to hear whether or not Dr. Marie Russell is qualified to testify about the arm injuries, that, I believe, is the parameters, the proper parameters of the voir dire, and that's what I'm prepared to do today. But I wasn't planning on getting into the substance of her testimony because that's been provided. And I don't think Mr. Lally should be able to get into the substance of her testimony because he knows what the substance is because, like I said, that's been provided.
All right, so I disagree. I'm going to hear from the Commonwealth on this. Is it Ms. McLaughlin or Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, just briefly in regard to what counsel was referencing with Ms. McCabe, it was not a full interview by Lieutenant Tully. It was a, and I don't have it on me at this moment, but I can give the court a copy of that report. But essentially it was Ms. McCabe met with Lieutenant Tully, looked at some video, and was asked a single question. That report wasn't available. I didn't have it until after Ms. McCabe testified, but it was given to counsel prior to Lieutenant Tully testifying, and there were no questions asked of Lieutenant Tully in regard to that. My issue, and I wasn't asking for a voir dire as it proposed to, as it relates to Dr. Russell, is that we first heard of Dr. Russell on May 21st, which was, I think, 6 weeks into trial.
Right, so that's what I asked, and you told me it was 3 days after the beginning of trial, Mr. Jackson.
Your Honor, I said this to sidebar the other day, I just said it again today. I let the Commonwealth and the court know about Dr. Maureen Russell 3 days after I learned about her, which was the 17th of May. I think it was the 17th of May. I had never heard of her. I didn't know who she was. We made contact. I determined that she would be useful for the jury.
Wait, what? Did she contact them? The hell was this? That's weird, but okay.
In terms of specifically the injuries to John O'Keefe's arm, I then had one conversation with her, then immediately, within 3 days of that, turned that information over to the prosecution. So I didn't say that I gave this over.
Yes, guys, today's Juneteenth. Courts all over America. It's a federal holiday now. It's a court holiday. No courts are open anywhere. All the courts around me are closed. So, yes, that's why we're catching this up today. The court in Massachusetts is closed as well. So, that's why we're catching up.
3 days into trial. That's not what I said.
All right, but you were ordered to do it. Ms. Gianetti, what was the date? What, you had 1 week from when?
The day before the trial. So it would have been, I believe, April 15th. So what we knew as of that day, you were required to turn over.
All right, I need to take a quick recess.
What? All right.
Okay, so we're like, where does she? Looks like she comes back pretty quick. Hold on. All right, here we go. We're just gonna have more silence, just dead air.
In violation, Dr. Russell. Based on a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of the defense.
Now, before we get too far, guys, yes, defense has reciprocal discovery obligations. Anything they intend to introduce at trial, you have to show. That's what you have to provide. Somebody actually asked me in an email, if the defense, let's say they got an expert witness and the expert witness said, actually, I don't think it's legit. I think nothing can show, like, I'm convinced Karen did it. The defense doesn't have to provide that to the state. Much of the same way, I mentioned this before, I went out and I was trying to figure out, I had a case I had, and I went and there was a felony assault. This guy was accused of beating the shit out of a lady. I showed up at the apartment building and I was interviewing people, and somebody there was actually like, oh yeah, I saw the whole thing and he did it. I don't know if she was truthful or not, but and the prosecutor didn't know who she was. I get, she's like, well, can I have your card? I'm like, yeah, here's my card. I'll be in touch. I'll be in touch for trial. She's like, oh, okay, thanks. I don't have to tell anybody about her. I didn't have to tell anybody she existed. I don't have to do anything with that. I only have to disclose stuff I want to use at trial. Whereas, like, on the other hand, I found other people in the apartment building who said, nope, my guy wasn't the aggressor. The lady was, and he defended himself. And some people said they didn't even think it happened. Okay. Then they thought it was someone else who beat up the lady. I had to provide those people's names. Like, there's always ways you can do it. So, guys, yes, I understand I'm short right now. Remember, I'm getting my monitor stuff fixed. It should be taken care of later. Squiggle said, did you keep in touch with her? No, I didn't. I said, I call you at the time if we need you for trial. I didn't bring it up. I ghosted her. She never called me back, so that helps too. But yeah, I didn't have to keep in touch with her. So but yes, they have to provide discovery if they're going to use it. So this doctor, although it sounds like it was a really late discovery, it sounds like the doctor showed up at their door. That creates an issue. Yes, there was an issue with the DNA. I know the DNA took forever. The dog swabbing DNA, where they found like pig DNA in there. I know that took forever to show up, and the defense wanted it kicked out, and they have every right to do that. So who are these two on screen? Somebody from John O'Keefe's family. I just happen to pause here. Here we go.
So I do find that there is a violation of the reciprocal discovery obligations of Rule 14. And I'm quoting from the notes, the importance of this, the reporter's notes to the old rule. And as you all know, we're in the process of updating that rule, but the very integrity of the judicial system and public confidence in the system depend on full disclosure of all the facts within the framework of the rules of evidence. To ensure that justice is done, it is imperative to the function of courts that compulsory process be available for the production of evidence needed either by the prosecution or the defense. So what we're here to do today is decide a remedy for this violation. And that's why we're having a voir dire. I am not prohibiting the Commonwealth from anything on their examination of witness, Mr. Jackson. The alternative is she doesn't testify. So the Commonwealth has not received the appropriate discovery from this witness. So we're going to have a voir dire, and they can ask her anything that they think they need to ask her. So those are the parameters of this morning.
As long as I know the guardrails, that's fine. I just to close the loop on the record. My understanding, and this Little can probably speak to this more intelligently than I can, but during the middle of trial, there was a witness that we had never heard of, we did not know and didn't have a report for.
Who is that?
Dr. Fowler, Faller.
Okay.
If the court remembers, it was buried in the middle of about 75 witnesses. So he testified to alcohol levels, et cetera, and protocols at the which institution? At Good Samaritan. And we didn't have that information either. We didn't throw a fit. They said we were going to provide this information in a time.
We didn't throw a fit. You should have thrown a fit. You should have been like, this is the thing. This isn't some jack off DUI case. This isn't some jack off drunken disorderly. This isn't some bullshit domestic violence charge. This isn't some bullshit forgery or breaking and entering, some piddly dick felony. This is a murder case, man. You got to be fucking hard nosed. Everything's a battle. Everything's the fight. They don't have an expert. Fuck you. I'm calling the rules into effect. Nope, they're not coming in. I haven't seen it. You run around screaming with your hair on fire. You don't ever give them an inch because look at Lally. Lally's not giving you that inch now. We try to be collegial. You had no obligation to be collegial, and now Lally does it. Lally's going to enforce the rules as he sees fit, and now look what happened. This is why you don't do that. This is why you don't do this. You fight hard. Like this is an unforced error by Jackson. We're trying to be nice. Don't be nice. Be professional. Don't be nice. So, not having that expert ready, you fucking crushed that. Instead, they did it, and now they're getting burned. And guys, what I mean by hard-nosed, like, you're up in there, it's the idea of, like, imagine a cornerback and a wide receiver on the line of scrimmage. And here's the wide receiver, here's the cornerback, okay? So the quarterback can play really soft. He can stay off the line, or he can be right up here, hard-nosed. You're right up in their face. You're right up in their face. You're not giving them an inch. You're making them work for everything. And she didn't let them. Well, they let it go away. Alexis says, I can never be a lawyer. I'm super nice. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be mean. You don't have to be mean. You just say, we have a rule set. We stay within the rules as always. Holding people to the rules isn't mean. So.
Fashion. As soon as we know that we're going to call him, he's got to be on our witness list. We didn't know one way or the other what he was going to say. We didn't have a report, and we went on about our business. That's what we were doing as well. And by the way, I would note that the notes and report under Rule 14 require disclosure of information you have. I just don't want the court to think that we were sitting on information that we didn't turn over.
No, I'm not saying that. It's just, this isn't as if it was something that the Commonwealth brought up and you needed to scramble. This is entirely of the defense position. So,
I understand.
all right. So that's the big difference. So why don't you go ahead and call her?
Okay. May I be excused to call her?
Yes.
Meet him and tuck the legs in. There you go. Doctor, I'm just going to ask that you be mindful to step up. Ask that you remain standing.
Commissioner, you solemnly swear the evidence given in the court, the case now here, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do.
Good
Morning.
I'm just gonna note, just for the sake of things here. Wow, they get the big jumbo water. She gets the big jumbo water. Lucky her. That's nice. I mean, who wouldn't want the big jumbo water with the little, click open lid?
So I'm going to ask you to keep your voice up. Speak right into that microphone, doctor. Okay?
Yes.
Thank you. All right. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good morning. Could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Yes. Marie Russell, Russell.
And I'm going to echo what the court just indicated. The air conditioners are on, so please keep your voice as elevated as possible and maneuver the microphone however you need to, okay?
Okay.
Dr. Russell, what do you do for a living?
I am a retired emergency physician and forensic pathologist.
And tell me what education you have, going all the way back to the beginning, that qualifies you as an emergency physician and former pathologist before you retired.
Okay. Well, I've had about at least 16 years of formal education beyond high school. Initially, I started at MIT, where I did my pre-med courses. I had always wanted to be a physician. And so I went to MIT for a year, took pre-med courses. And then I had an unusual life event in that my mother came down with cancer and she subsequently passed away. During the time away, so I took some time off from school. During that period of time, I decided to explore another interest of mine, which was law enforcement. And so I took some courses in law enforcement, and I became a full-time police officer here in Massachusetts.
What years were you at MIT?
That was 1972 to 1974.
Did you go to?
This is a very interesting career path for someone. I mean, really, this is wow. So she became a cop for a while, and then she became she's a pathologist, but she's also I mean, that's a little weird. That's a little weird so far. It's interesting though. I will say, chat, in all honesty, this is weird and also kind of funny.
Police Academy.
I did. Once I became a police officer here in Massachusetts, I attended the Boston Police Academy where I graduated.
What year was that?
That was in 1977.
During the course of your training as a police officer, did you have any specialized training in hit and run accidents and investigations?
Yes, I did.
And which agency did you work for as a sworn peace officer?
I worked for the city of Malden full-time for 7 years.
That would be from 1977 to 1984, approximately?
Correct.
During that time, did you continue your education in any way?
I did. So I took as many courses as I could from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council, which included a course, a several-day course in hit-and-run accident investigation. I took courses in forensic photography and numerous other things. And then, and I also at the same time continued to go to college, and I did that part-time, where I eventually got a bachelor's degree of science in psychology with highest honors.
What institution was that from?
That was from Northeastern University.
And that was a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology?
I think it was a Bachelor of Science.
Got it. Subsequent to your Bachelor of Science degree from Northeastern, did you also advance your education further, formally?
Subsequent to, so I decided that I did want to pursue a medical career. And so I then attended medical school, University of Massachusetts Medical School full-time for 4 years.
Did you ultimately get a degree, an MD degree from UMass?
Yes, a Doctor of Medicine degree in 1987.
So you were there from 1983 to 1987, is that right?
That is correct.
And did you do a residency?
I did. I did 2 residencies, actually. Most people do 1, but I did 2. I did, my first residency was a combined internship and residency for 4 years. And I did that in Los Angeles at Los Angeles County Medical Center, which is a very big trauma center and what I would consider the Bellevue of the West Coast. Very busy.
You say that just because of the volume at USC Medical Center?
That is correct.
Is it one of the busiest medical trauma centers in the country?
Yes.
You were there from 1987 to 1991, is that right?
I did my ER internship and residency during those years. Yes, there.
During that time, were you seeing patients?
Oh, yes.
You were treating patients?
Lots of them.
You were attending to patients?
I was a trainee, so I was seeing as many patients as we could. There was always a waiting room full of patients, and yeah, so I saw many patients during that time period.
Did you indicated a second residency? Tell me about that.
Okay, so I still realized I had an interest in forensics, and so I decided that I wanted to also train in forensic pathology. So I did a second residency in anatomic pathology, 2 years, followed by forensic pathology fellowship at the Los Angeles County Coroner's Office for 2 years.
And the years, if that's 4 years, that would be from 1991 to 1995 approximately?
That is correct.
Tell me what your experience was as a fellow at the Los Angeles Coroner's Office, Los Angeles County Coroner's Office.
Yes, well, it also was a very busy coroner's office. And so every day there would be cases. I probably did at least 2 cases a day, most days, and plus conferences and educational opportunities. But the interesting thing about being a fellow is they try to give you a wide assortment of cases. So, for instance, I not only saw numerous victims of gunshot violence and stabbings, but I saw numerous victims of motor vehicle accidents and natural death, overdoses. And then if there was an unusual case, it usually went to the fellow, because the fellow was also being supervised. So,
did any of those unusual cases, and we'll get more into this in just a second, but did any of those unusual cases include animal attacks?
Yes.
Did you become a professor, an educator at any point?
Yes. So during my 29 years at LA County Hospital, during the last 25 of those, I was a assistant professor or an instructor, but mostly an assistant professor. And what that meant is that I was responsible for overseeing the care that was provided by the interns and residents. So when a patient would come in into the hospital, the emergency room, they were oftentimes usually seen by the intern or resident, and then I would go and subsequently see that patient also. So, and that was in addition to my own cases. So I'd see my cases and their cases.
And that was at LAUSC, correct?
That is correct. And
can I ask a quick question?
Yes.
LAUSC, for those of us who are not necessarily familiar with it, is that associated with the University of Southern California Medical Center?
Yes.
That's the school, in other words, the site.
Yes. So it stands for Los Angeles County / University of Southern California Medical Center.
And that's where you were an assistant professor for the majority of the rest of your career.
Correct.
Were you also an assistant or an adjunct professor at Cal State Los Angeles?
Yes.
Okay. For how long were you an adjunct professor there?
I believe that was 4 or 5 years. And I taught criminalistics, forensic medicine there.
As an attending physician in the ER, in other words, a supervising physician in the ER, can you tell us what some of your duties and responsibilities?
They're still going. They're still going. You guys were joking. This is a 10-minute long thing. Like, wow. This is a bit of an impressive, this is actually kind of like what, like, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. What I want to know is, how long has she been retired? And I don't think we've heard that answer yet. How long has she been out of practice? Because if it's been 15 years, I got a big problem with her credibility. If she's only been retired like a year or two, okay, she's still hot and up with the trends. Let's see.
Included, especially as it pertains to trauma, and then I'll get more specific in just a second.
Okay. Well, so I would oversee the care of all the patients that came in during a particular shift. And that would include medical patients and trauma patients. And as I mentioned, it was a very busy trauma center. So we had lots of trauma patients, including the types of violence I described earlier that I saw at the coroner's office, but lots of motor vehicle accident victims, because there was a highway there right nearby. There were a couple of highways, so a wide variety of accidents.
Did your supervision include assessing, diagnosing, and treating patients?
Correct.
In terms of the middle part of that, diagnosis, was part of your job to determine the cause of injuries, or to at least assess the cause of injuries?
Yes, and I took that on a little bit more because I was interested in the forensics aspect of the injuries.
The forensic aspect.
Yes.
Okay. During your time at LAUSC, even after you left the Los Angeles coroner's office as a fellow, did you continue to stay in contact with the coroner's office and have a relationship with the coroner's office as a supervising physician?
I continued to stay in contact with the coroner's office, and I used to attend their conferences as often as I could, not as a supervising physician, but as a physician and a graduate of their program.
During your tenure at LAUSC, did you ever become the director of any programs at LAUSC?
Yes.
Did that include the director of Center for Life Support Training?
Yes.
What years was that, if you remember?
I don't remember that.
The early 2000s, late 90s?
Yes, that sounds about right.
Okay.
And we would conduct lots of courses, including trauma, life support courses.
Did LAUSC incorporate a quality improvement program
Yes.
within their institution?
Yes.
Did you become a director of that as well?
Yes.
So you were director of Center for Life Support Training and director of LAUSC Medical Center Quality Improvement. Is that right?
The quality improvement was for the emergency department.
All right.
Yes.
And did you also become the director for jail medical services?
Yes.
What is the association between LAUSC and the very, very expansive jail system in Los Angeles County?
So LA County Hospital was unique in that they many, many years ago developed a jail, what they called a jail ward, which was a combined inpatient, outpatient, and ER. So there was a dedicated jail ER. And that has been in existence for probably about 70 years now. And patients that were placed under arrest by either LA sheriffs, LAPD, California Highway Patrol, or any of the municipal agencies in the area, and I think there were about 70 or more municipal agencies, could bring their patients to the LA County jail ward where the patients would get treatment.
Ultimately, you became the director of that entire program, correct?
Yes.
Did you also work with the State Medical Board of California in any capacity?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
For about 7 years, I worked part-time for the California Medical Board as a physician assigned to one of their enforcement teams. And I did that 1 day a week, and I did my other job at the county hospital the other 40 hours a week.
So you didn't take off time from your duties as an ER physician, as an emergency physician. This was in addition to you being an emergency physician.
That is correct.
Do you hold the title of Chief Medical Executive for the California State Prison System, specifically at Corcoran?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I retired from LA County Hospital, and I went on to move on to the the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation.
And what year was that? Did you make that transition?
So 2018 is when I started for the state prison system,
Okay.
and I worked there for 5 years as director of their medical service
So you
in
were-
Corcoran.
I'm sorry. So for that prison, within that system, you were the chief medical executive for the entire agency, correct?
That is correct. For the entire prison.
Understood. Are you board certified in emergency medicine?
Yes.
Are you a member of the National Association of Medical Examiners?
Yes.
Are you a member of the American Academy of Forensic Science?
Yes.
Do you have any publications in the area? And I'm going to be very specific because you've been relatively widely published. Is that right?
Some people would say yes. Some people would say no.
more than a couple of publications
Correct.
and peer-reviewed journals, correct?
Yes.
I want to focus your attention on animal injuries. Have you been published in the area of animal injuries specifically?
Yes.
Do you recall those publications?
Yes, they had to do with law enforcement dog bites.
Did you draft an article or co-author an article called Managing Law Enforcement Dog Bites in the ER?
Yes, I was a co-author.
1996?
Sounds right.
And that was a peer-reviewed article,
Yes.
ultimately published,
Yes.
and ultimately available to be cited by other doctors and studied by other doctors, correct?
Correct.
Did you also author or co-author an article entitled Law Enforcement Canine Dog Bites, Injuries, Complications, and Trends?
Yes, I did.
Is that in 1997?
Sounds right.
Was that also peer-reviewed?
Yes.
And that publication was also available for other physicians throughout California and throughout the country to refer to for the study of animal bites and dog bites, correct?
Dog bites. Yes.
Dog bites. Concerning animal injuries, during the course of your professional experience, how many patients have you seen, diagnosed, and or treated with animal injuries, including dog bites and scratches, if you had to estimate?
Many hundreds.
Would you say it's over or under 1,000?
I would say it's over 500. I don't know because we didn't keep really good records back in the earlier days.
But it's safe to say you've seen hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dog bites and scratches.
Yes, in my 29 years at LA County Hospital, yes. And my dog bites I took care of and dog bites that the residents took care of, yes.
And you've even published articles and studied, not just seen them, but studied dog bites and dog wounds, correct?
Yes,
Have you qualified as an expert previously in other courts as in emergency medicine?
yes,
Have you qualified as an expert in other courts in forensic pathology and wounds?
yes,
Has that been in both state and federal court?
yes,
Doctor, were you asked to review certain materials related to this case?
yes,
And that was in furtherance of coming to, if you could, come to an opinion or a conclusion about injuries to the victim in this case, a person by the name of John O'Keefe.
yes.
What did you review in anticipation of your determining whether or not you could come to an opinion or a conclusion?
So I reviewed hospital photographs, autopsy photographs, autopsy report, grand jury testimony from the medical examiner in this case. There may be some other.
Based on this,
I just want to ask about that. Do you have notes with you as to what you reviewed?
No.
Okay, so when you say there might be other, you don't.
Well,
If he tells you what you reviewed, you'd know it.
I would recognize it.
All right, but I want to hear it from you. You
Oh, I
you
see.
don't know of anything else
Okay.
that you've reviewed? This is sort of important, Mr. Jackson.
Okay.
She can review,
besides
refresh her with her CV. I mean, really,
Autopsy photographs.
she can be refreshed with her CV. Jesus.
Autopsy report, neuropathology report, toxicology report, and the grand jury testimony.
okay, so as you recall, the items that you reviewed include an autopsy report by Dr. Scorti-Bello, correct?
Yes,
A neuropathology report by a doctor named Stonebridge, correct?
yes,
Toxicological reports associated with the autopsy,
yes,
grand jury transcripts from Dr. Scorti-Bello,
yes.
photographs of evidence items, including a gray sweatshirt,
Oh, yes, yes,
and autopsy photos that were taken attendant to the actual autopsy.
yes, and photographs that were taken in the hospital, and I reviewed the hospital ER record also.
So in addition to what you just listed, there's also hospital photos separate and apart from the autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes,
And those hospital photos showed the injuries to Mr. O'Keefe's arm, is that right?
yes,
And you also reviewed emergency room records that are attendant to his initial acceptance into the emergency room on January 29th, 2022, correct?
that's correct.
Based on your review of all of those materials, were you able to confidently come to any conclusions or opinions about the nature of the injuries suffered by John O'Keefe, specifically as they relate to John O'Keefe's right arm?
Yes,
What is your opinion and conclusion concerning those injuries?
those injuries appear to be consistent with an animal attack.
Can you be more specific in terms of the type of animal, or are you relegated to simply an animal attack?
Well, they are consistent with a large dog attack. There's combination of both what I consider bite wounds and scratch wounds on the arm. There were also some puncture wounds in that shirt.
And, are the,
So I'm sorry, puncture wounds in the shirt?
Puncture holes
Okay.
in the shirt.
and on what do you base the opinion that the injuries are consistent with dog bite or scratch marks?
Well, the patterns. There are several patterns of parallel wounds that appear to be superficial scratches that could have been caused by nails or could have been caused by teeth. There are different angles on the arm and different locations on the arm, and but they're generally oriented in a specific direction. And there's also an area, the distal forearm, which is close to the wrist, which shows what I believe is an arch area of teeth marks.
And what's the significance of the arch area?
Well, so the arch would be the front area of the jaw of the animal, or the dog in this case, where the teeth tend to be close together and curved. There's a curved pattern to the configuration of the teeth.
I'm gonna have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Doctor, I'm going to show you a series of photographs. May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
First, can you describe whether or not you recognize what's depicted in that photograph? Have you seen that photograph before?
Yes, I have.
Is that part of what you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
What is that photograph of?
So this is a photograph of the decedent's arm near the elbow. And do you want me to describe what it shows?
Just briefly. An
Okay.
overview of what
Yeah, and it shows wounds.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask that that be marked as next in order of evidence.
All right, so for this voir dire, we'll have separate evidence, right? Is this an exhibit number in the trial
It
already?
has not been marked yet, so I'm fine with starting over sort of for the purposes of the voir dire process. How are the purposes to it?
So this will be a separate voir dire with separate exhibit, yes,
So it's going to be exhibit 1?
yes.
Your Honor, I want to move this along. This has been marked, but I think.
Hold on. Okay,
I'm so sorry. This one of the three, one of the three has already been marked, but if, just for consistency, I'd rather mark it additionally for voir dire.
need a separate record for the voir dire.
May I approach?
Yes.
This one's already been marked, but I'll remark it.
And if you'd tell me the exhibit numbers that they are. So you're putting these in now? There's no objection, Mr. Lally?
For purposes of this, no.
Okay. So we'll mark these now, but
May I approach?
yes.
The one with the label 2858 on the bottom has previously been marked in the trial. I would ask that this be marked as the next in order for the voir dire.
But what I want is the exhibit number at the trial.
I'll get that for you. I believe it's exhibit 19.
Okay.
Is that 19? That's correct. It's 19.
Okay. And is the third one also in evidence, you said?
2 of the 3 have not been marked. As soon as that report is ready.
She's ready.
May I just establish the foundation?
Yes.
The following 2 photographs that I just showed you, Doctor, do you recognize those?
Yes.
Did you also review those in terms of, in furtherance of coming to your opinions and conclusions?
Yes.
Do they also appear to be different photographs of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes.
I would move for the admission of both of those, Your Honor, for purposes of voir dire.
There's been no objection to them, so they're in. They're already marked.
I just need to know which one's 2 and which one's 3. May I approach?
Yes.
Okay, that's. Report from permission, may I publish
Yes,
Exhibit 2 for voir dire?
yes.
Is this a photograph of of John O'Keefe's arm?
Yes,
Is this one of the several photographs that you reviewed in coming to your opinions and conclusions?
yes.
I want to ask you a couple of questions about this. There should be a laser pointer on the desk.
Okay.
Can you explain for the jurors what it is about the injuries that assisted you in coming to your opinion and conclusion that this is from an animal attack?
Okay, there's several patterns here. So for instance, let's look here, right near the elbow, the exterior part of the elbow. There's these two linear marks, which appear to be from upper teeth, and two punctures below those, which are superficial, meaning they didn't go very deep into the skin, but they appear from the lower teeth. So that's one pattern. There's another pattern close to the shoulder, which shows parallel marks, these two, and maybe a third one in the middle, parallel marks that are oriented at a certain angle. And these are superficial wounds, which are consistent with teeth marks. They also could be possibly consistent with nail marks, but
With what?
nails from claw, yes.
All
We have some more here, similar from obviously different teeth involved or different claws, and then down here closer to the wrist, we have an unusual pattern of at least 4 striations, the way I see it, at least 4 striations that I believe are caused from the teeth towards the front of the mouth near the arch. It appears that there's an arch pattern here. So
in a dog attack or in an animal attack, in your experience, let me take this one down. Let's cover the ground on the 3 exhibits that we've already marked. Can we take a look at Exhibit 1? Is this just may I publish, Your Honor? Yes, I apologize. Is this just a close-up of the same injuries?
yes,
And do these appear to be consistent with what you just testified to in terms of either teeth or claw marks, especially as it relates to the area closest to the elbow?
yes,
All right. And then looking at Exhibit 3. May I publish?
Yes,
Is this a close-up view of the area closer to the wrist that indicated those parallel, you used the word striations?
yes,
All right. And these appear to be taken, attended to the autopsy as opposed to the other photograph, Exhibit 2, that was taken in the hospital. Is that right?
that is correct.
All right. And would the time difference account for the slight change in the nature of the wound?
It could,
Photograph of the wound, I guess?
it could, or different technique, yes.
Okay. Let me take this down. Did you take into consideration the lack, in coming to your opinion and conclusion, the lack of other injuries, for instance, fractures, broken bones, or deep bruising, soft tissue injuries?
Oh, yes.
How did that play into your opinion?
Well, so of course I considered, what else could have caused these wounds, before coming to my conclusion. And so I wanted to rule out other things. And there were no significant major bodily injuries outside the head. There was nothing, there were no fractures of the long bones, the chest, the pelvis, the arms. So yeah, so having seen hundreds and hundreds of car accident victims and people hit by cars, I ruled that out very quickly.
Okay. And in terms of the injuries that you did see, especially as they're attended to the arm, based on everything that we've discussed today, is it your opinion, based on a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, that those injuries are consistent with an animal attack as opposed to a motor vehicular pedestrian incident?
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I have.
all right, Mr. Lally.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Let me take you back to, you were talking about some police training that you had received when you were in the academy or while you were working with the police department here in Massachusetts. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. What kind of training what did that training consist of?
Well, I attended and graduated from the standard police academy at that time. And And then I took additional courses that were offered from the Massachusetts Criminal Justice Training Council. And these were taught generally by experts in their fields. And they were on a variety of subjects that are listed in, in my CV, included, the hit and run accident investigation, forensic.
Just for a minute, ma'am. Doctor, in reference to your training as it pertains to hit and run accidents, what did that training consist of?
Oh, well, mechanisms of how accidents occur, mechanisms of how to determine, what vehicle was involved in an accident. There, I don't, it was a long time ago, but yeah. So determining if people were struck by vehicles, what vehicle was involved, or if there was auto versus auto accident, what vehicles were involved.
And I don't mean to belittle this training whatsoever, but is it fair to say that that was relatively rudimentary training that you received in the academy?
Probably. I would not. Yes. Okay. Probably. If
You don't have any training in crash reconstruction or anything like that, correct?
that is correct.
And am I correct? And you indicated that you're board certified in emergency medicine. Is that right?
That's correct.
And so you're not board certified in forensic pathology or anatomical pathology or any kind of pathology?
That's correct.
And the last time that you worked as a coroner, when was that?
The last time was in 1995 when I was doing autopsies for the coroner's office. I have since, though, consulted on some cases from the LA coroner's office.
What, about 30 years ago? Is that about right?
For autopsy, yes.
Now, have you ever testified in a case in which either Mr. Jackson or Attorney Little were counsel?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
And when was it that you first were contacted in reference to this case?
The first contact was May 15th.
May 15th of what year?
May 17th, excuse me, of this year, 2024. Yes.
And you went through a list of things that you were provided and you reviewed, and you mentioned hospital photos, correct?
Yes.
Autopsy photos, is that correct?
Yes.
An autopsy report, is that correct?
Yes.
Grand jury testimony from the medical examiner, is that correct?
Yes.
A neuropathology report, is that correct?
Yes.
A toxicology report, is that correct?
Yes.
And then I think you also remembered some photos of some clothing items, is that correct as well?
Yes, a shirt. And
Anything else?
yeah, hospital ER record.
Hospital ER records?
Yeah, yes.
Anything else that you can think of?
No.
Did you ask for anything else to review?
No.
What more would she need to review, Lally? You went through that whole list of things. That's a pretty extensive list of stuff. Like, what more do you think she needs to look at?
Were you told of any other material that was available for your review that you weren't then given?
Well, I requested that that I focus in on the wounds, so I didn't ask for a lot of material in this case.
But fair to say that you were looking for anything and everything, material to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Please say that again.
Sure. Fair to
Yes, that would make sense. She doesn't need the toxicology reports if she's examining an arm wound. She wouldn't need the car reconstruction if she's looking at whether or not a dog bit this guy. So I don't understand what Lally thinks that's not an own here. This is not an own to this woman. Isn't it true you didn't look at the blood tests? Like, why does that matter? Why does that matter?
say that you would want to look at anything and everything that was related to the wounds that you were asked to look at, correct?
Yes.
And so did you make any specific requests as to what material you were provided, or were you just handed some material or forwarded some material and you looked at what you were given?
No, I requested that I have the autopsy photographs, the ER records, the ER photographs. I requested those.
Now, you mentioned some articles that you had written that were published back in 1996 and 1997 related to dog bites. Is that right?
Yes.
Are those publicly available articles?
Yes.
And in those articles that you wrote, you were talking about law enforcement bites, correct?
Yes.
So law enforcement canine bites. typically involve what people call sort of a bite and hold technique. Is that correct?
Yes, yes.
So is there a difference between, through your experience and the hundreds of dog bites that you've seen, is there a difference between what you would observe from a dog bite from a law enforcement canine versus just your domesticated dog?
Well, yes. Now, the study, one of those studies was over 700 dog bite wounds, and there were two techniques used at that time: bite and hold, and later on, bark and hold, or bark and alert, or something of that nature. So there are different techniques,
Woof, woof,
but
woof, woof.
but yes, to specifically answer that question, which was, are they generally different from regular domestic dog bites? Yes.
Now, did you write a report in regard to your opinion that you testified to here today?
No,
Why not?
I don't think there was much time, and I didn't know if I was going to be actually testifying.
How long would it take you to write a report?
I wasn't asked to write a report, excuse me.
Were you asked specifically not to write a report?
No.
So this is interesting. She kind of like is jumped into this, and she thought, "Oh, I was just gonna be." She's like, "Oh, I just thought I'd be consulting with them or advising them." That's a pretty plausible explanation.
Now, at any point in time, did you ever look at anything related to Mr. O'Keefe's head injury?
Oh, yes.
So you reviewed reports in relation to that, correct?
Yes.
Do you have any opinions as it pertains
Well-
to that?
I would.
I mean, yes, Alpha Fox, a canine does not equal a canine. Yes, a police dog is not a regular dog. But to be fair, they go om nom nom the same way. And it doesn't matter if it's, Chloe the dog or, a Secret Service, Malinois chomping on you. They chomp on you the same, and it all hurts the same. Yes, let's use Clyde as Clyde is Clyde actually bit me once, and he's got such little teeth, it was just like pressure. Clyde nipped once when we first had him. But yeah, Clyde he'd be like, "Oh, we the jury find a dog cute. He's such a good boy." And Karen will be like, "Wait, what about me?" "Oh, yeah, I guess we'll figure it out for you too." So,
Rather defer to the pathologist and neuropathologist on that.
huh.
So who contacted you about this case?
I contacted a district attorney that I had worked with in the past. We were discussing a different case, a case that I autopsied in 1995. And I mentioned that I heard that there was a case in Massachusetts that might have been being handled by one of his colleagues, his former colleagues, and that there was an issue of whether something was a dog bite, and that I might be able to help in that case to clarify.
And so when you were provided this material, what is it that you were specifically asked to do?
To look at the wounds and the reports and the materials that were sent to me and render an opinion.
And so before you had even been provided any material, before you had even looked at anything, you had already heard information related to there being a dog bite involved in this case, correct?
I had heard that there was a controversy, that there's some certain wounds could have been a dog bite versus perhaps inflicted by a motor vehicle. That's what I had heard.
So what I'm really trying to get at, Doctor, is sort of the timeline. Okay, so you hear about this one.
So, Fondon, I'm not saying the dogs are trained to hold isn't an issue, but the dog biting, like the bite marks, that's the thing here. Like, Whether the dog was biting and holding, okay, maybe it was holding, maybe it wasn't, but like, a dog biting you is a dog biting you. I mean, there's going to be some universal principles there. So that's my point here is the dog biting is biting. And it's, do these teeth match up? Does this match up to the skull of a dog? Is this consistent with the pattern? I'm not saying, is it following police procedure? I'm trying to tell you the mechanics of a bite are going to be the same. So I think that's more of what we're trying to get to the bottom of here. And Juror 13, I agree with you. Yes, Chloe wouldn't be a good police dog, but the overall principle of how she would bite and how the bite would work, would be the same. Great success saying, no, I can't take this witness seriously. Well, I mean, she's kind of a bit of a boomer. The one thing I will say, and this is something that Alpha Fox did bring up, this is her total, looks like this is most of her research that's out there. She's got a couple of publications. Looks like from here, there's, some stuff about them where it's like, okay, well, being published is good. When was she published? So September of 99, January of 99, October 97, June 97, April 96, June 95. So what's the issue with that? And it's been cited a couple of times. Cool. So, wait. Hold on. Did she cite herself? Anyway. This is 20. The newest of them is 25 years ago. So she's been kind of out of the research game for a while. And one of these, gunshot wounds, this doesn't matter for us. Suicide by cop, that doesn't matter for us. Sucrose is an aid to manual reduction of incarcerated rectal prolapse. That's not relevant for our discussions. You guys know what rectal prolapse is, don't Google it. It's really bad. Don't Google it. It's not good. Now, law enforcement canine dog bites and injuries. This is good. Managing law enforcement canine dog bites in the emergency department. Cool. And then the other one she has here, safety and bullet recovery procedures. Don't need that one. So we've only got 2 of them that we can use. I just, talking about prolapse buttholes. Yes, Jared says, for God's sake, don't Google rectum anything. Oh. A rectal prolapse. Oh, that's what come last. Yeah. Pink socks are fun. Well, a pink sock in a prison environment doesn't sound like fun, Dolly. That actually sounds really rough. Katie said, I had a workers' comp claim for a lady who had a vaginal prolapse before. What kind of job was she working where that happens? Like literally, her cooch getting pulled inside out. What kind of job are you doing where that happens? Does she work on a horse farm? Holy jeez. Anyways, let's get back to the show.
Was that?
Sometime just before May 17th.
So sometime just prior to that, you hear about some controversy in a case in Massachusetts involving a dog bite. On May 17th, you get reached out to by who specifically?
His name is John Lewin. He's an attorney in the LA District Attorney's Office.
And then who did you talk to after that?
I reached out to him. I said I might be able to clarify. And then he reached out to Mr. Jackson, I believe, and then Mr. Jackson contacted me.
And not asking specifically anything you spoke about, but at some point, the discussion came specifically to dog bites, correct?
He sent me the materials. He asked me my opinion.
Sent you the materials, asked you your opinion. When did you provide that opinion?
Probably the next day. Yes, I know it was the next day.
So the very next day on May 18th, you provided an opinion?
Yes,
And was that opinion provided in a written fashion, orally? How was that provided?
orally.
So you reached out to someone shortly before May 17th, spoke to Mr. Jackson on the 17th, received all the material, and then had an opinion by May 18th.
Yes.
But you didn't write any of that down.
No.
Now, beyond the materials that you were provided, what else were you told about the case?
I was told that the victim was a police officer. The decedent is a police officer. I was told that the defendant had been charged, and I was told that that there was a controversy about whether or not these injuries had been caused by motor vehicle. And I was also told, and I read in the medical record, that the decedent was found outdoors, I believe in the snow, and hypothermic.
Now, in regard to what you reviewed, you didn't review any investigative reports, is that correct?
That is correct.
You didn't review any witness statements, is that correct?
That's correct.
You didn't review any lab reports as far as from the forensic lab or anything like that?
I reviewed the toxicology report.
Beyond that, any other?
If it was part of the autopsy report, I reviewed it.
So you reviewed everything attendant to the medical examiner's file, is that correct?
Yes.
But nothing from the lab beyond that?
I don't believe I did.
Now, this first instance, when you say you heard about it, how did you hear about it?
Well, I believe it was via a headline that I received in my email from the from Boston Globe headline. You know, it was some kind of there was some kind of interesting case, and I got it as an email, and I looked into it.
And when was that?
Well, that was that week in May, just a few days before May 17th.
You subscribed to the Boston Globe online?
I did at that time. I have not renewed it.
How long had you been a subscriber to the Boston Globe?
I'm going to allow it.
Probably a year or 6 months, 6 months to a year.
There was never any headlines or anything else that you saw about this prior to that week just before May 17th?
Not that I paid attention to.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Nothing further.
All right, so since this is a voir dire, I get to ask questions, doctor? So
Oh, yes.
I just have a couple of questions for you. I don't think I really heard you. So could you tell me again what your opinion is and to what degree you hold that opinion?
Yes. These injuries in the arm are, my opinion is that they are the result of animal bites or scratches.
And do you know what kind of animal?
Oh, yes, most likely dog, large dog. And I'm very reasonable, very sure to, what's the word I want? Medical certainty, very
All right, so
high degree of medical certainty.
reasonable degree of medical certainty.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, and another question. So I received information that you also viewed all reports associated with Chloe, a dog's prior bite history. Did you review those?
No, I don't recall ever seeing anything like
That
that.
you also reviewed the UC Davis DNA testing results submission forms?
No, I don't recall seeing them.
Okay, any follow-up, any questions based on my questions?
Not for the Commonwealth, no.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you are all set, doctor. I don't know yet whether you'll be testifying.
Okay.
Okay, we'll try and let you know. Are you going to be around for a few days?
No.
Okay, we'll let you know as soon as we can, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Thank
All right. Thank you.
So she still does some work. Like, I don't know. I mean, is she a witness?
So I would
mean,
like to hear argument on this.
I'll say this much: she's a better expert than fucking. Oh, I'm trained in crash examinations, guy, Trooper Paul. But it's not the strongest expert ever. Is it an expert? Sure. Yeah, just like I said, not the strongest.
Witness before we hear the other witnesses. So, and Mr. Yannetti, I asked you the other.
Guys, no, there are not jurors. Now over here, this is John O'Keefe's family. Behind Karen, back here, is her family and friends. And then over here, these are not jurors. These are not jurors. The jurors are home. The jurors are not here for this part. So they don't get to be here. These are some sort of court staff or other people. But this is the juror box, but these are not jurors. So I don't know who they are, but that's, yes. Notice we have never seen this wide a shot before because the jury has to be closed out. And that's why when we watch the camera pans up because the jury's right there. The jury, yes. Yes, juror 13, you're right. The jury's at home watching this, which they very likely could be. Holy shit. Luke is saying, no problems. More common in the Northeast. I'm not sure what's more common, but okay. Okay. Brad saying I missed it. What did I miss? Why did the judge change her high degree in medical certainty to a reasonable degree in medical certainty? I don't know why she did that, but it's what's your legal option of that? Is there a high option of certainty? I mean, it's better if she says it's to a reasonable degree. I mean, if she's lowering the standards for the expert, that's better for the defense. I don't know. Judge Cannoni does weird, goofy shit, so I'm not gonna give that. We're curious to see how the defense responds to that because I heard about this issue and I wanted to see what they talk about here. So let's just get to that.
Other day, whether she reached out to you or you reached out to her, and you said there was an intermediary. But my concern was whether she came out of nowhere and reached out about this case, and that seems to sort of.
It wasn't Mr. Yannetti, it was me.
Okay. All right. So the question I asked was answered pretty much by this witness, whether she saw something and decided she wanted to come forward. All right. It's the Commonwealth's motion. What are you asking me to do? Again, I found a violation of Rule 14. And there are two concerns here, the competency of the witness's testimony, how much she can testify to, whether she should testify at all.
Wait.
What is it
I get if this is just meant to be like a joke, but like literally I just talked.
that you're asking me, Mr. Lally?
Your Honor, I'm asking that the witness be excluded from testifying at the trial for the violation of Rule 14, specifically, I believe it's Rule 14A6. This is a witness, as the court picked up on, that reached out, albeit through an intermediary, with reference to just sort of discovering or coming upon this case in several weeks into the trial. It is concerning given the fact that the witness represented that she had a subscription to the Globe Online, received word of this, and the first time that she had ever seen it or it had grabbed her attention was in that first week of May when, as the court is well aware, there's been widespread media coverage, particularly through the Boston Globe, for years at this point. The limitations of the testimony, it's also concerning because the disclosure from counsel indicated, again, as the court had noted, I didn't want to get into too much as far as for purposes of this voir dire, but there was additional material that was indicated in the disclosure that the witness had reviewed, including the UC Davis related to the canine DNA or the lack thereof, as well as, forgive me, the dog bite history of that specific dog, which also, I would note for the court, includes photographs of what a dog bite from that specific dog looks like. And that specifically apparently was not provided to this witness, who's then opining on, inferably at least, that that dog was the cause of these particular injuries. However, was not shown specifically anything to do with that bite history as far as by way of reports or photographs. So that juxtaposed or coupled with the immensely late disclosure. I mean, we're talking about at least the 6th week of trial by the time this witness is even mentioned, not on the defendant's witness list, not mentioned at any point in time during the pendency of the case, and then sort of pops up in the middle of May, and to the point that the limited amount of material or information that's provided by counsel as far as disclosure opinion doesn't come until today. So for all those reasons, Your Honor, the Commonwealth is requesting that her testimony in its entirety be excluded from this trial.
Jackson?
Your Honor, exclusion is the highest form of punishment. It's the highest form of sanction that the court has available to it. Just to put a fine point on it, it is a dire remedy. And I know the court has mentioned 2 or 3 times, I'm finding a violation of Rule 14. That sounds as if the court is suggesting or has inferred that we did something wrong. We didn't do anything wrong. As the court learned, I didn't reach out to her. She reached out and said, hey, look, I've got some experience with this.
I asked you that the other day, though, and I was told that you reached out to her through an intermediary. I wasn't told she reached out to you through an intermediary.
I don't know that there's a difference. I mean,
What I was trying to get at, is this somebody who read about this case and said, you know, I want to be part of that? That's what I was trying to get at. I think it was pretty clear, Mr. Jackson. Go ahead, continue with your argument.
okay, I did not misrepresent anything to the court.
I didn't
take
say
offense-
that.
I take offense at the court's tone that yes, you did say that. You just said that. You said,
Okay.
I just heard the testimony.
Yeah, if you're saying, oh, you said X, no, I didn't. I'm not misrepresenting you. Yes, you are. If you're saying I did X, but I'm telling you, no, I didn't, I did Y, well, one of us is right and one of us is wrong. And also, real quick, you guys are wondering about the medical certainty thing here. Here's the easy answer to this. Article 8, hearsay of the Massachusetts. This is nice. This is all organized like that. But yeah, here you go. Medical certainty. Cool. So, what's the rule? Well, it says explaining that there is no requirement that an expert opinion on causation contain the phrase to a reasonable degree of medical certainty. So, though they don't even have to have that, it doesn't have to be included that way. I mean, and all that really does is it's not to a reasonable degree of medical certainty isn't really a fucking answer. To a high degree of medical certainty. Well, no, that's not really the answer we want either. What's the answer? Did this happen? Did it happen? Yes or no? Well, it could have, or probably happened, or maybe happened. So, yeah, she just misrepresented to the record. So, either way, this is not well, see 702 for criminal procedure. Yeah, but that alone's a good enough to show a reasonable certainty there. Yeah, and this remember what I said, guys, about being hard nosed. If something's wrong, you stop it and you fix it. Like you're like, no, ne pas. Oh, she's trying to say, the lady said she was very certain, and I heard her say that, and the judge downgraded it. Well, we'll see. And there is a big point from Lally that this lady's kind of interjected herself into the trial. That is a bit of an issue in any situation. That is a bit of an issue in there too. I think that's something I would be heavily concerned about if I was in their shoes. Because you always have to be careful about those. Um, so, and yeah, and Alpha Fox, it's all it says is that expert can include reasonable degree of certainty, not a high degree of certainty. I saw what you said. But once again, she doesn't have to say it. So, point being that medical certainty is different from scientific. Yeah, but either way, it's all gobbledygook. It's all bullshit that gets used. It's all bullshit that she's just using. See, Kess saying she's biased but extremely incompetent. I think she's biased. I mean, I think she's very heavily pro-state. But is she incompetent? I don't think so. And I don't think she's inexperienced. I think she's doing it the way she wants to do it. But anyways, let's just keep going.
And it's not what I said the other day. I know a person in Los Angeles DA's office. I received a text message from that person saying there's someone who reached out to me who said I might be able to elucidate on this controversy concerning the dog bites. I then reached out to her. So when you asked me who reached out to whom, I reached out to her through an intermediary, my friend in the DA's office back in Los Angeles County.
So maybe it wasn't clear what I was looking for. I think it was clear. But go ahead,
Okay.
Continue with your argument on this.
You are far from the clearest speaking person in the world, Bev. So no, I don't think it's wrong for them to be confused about what you're saying.
Rule 14 requires a sanction if, in fact, the attorney has done something wrong. In other words, it connotes the idea that we're doing something by actively hiding evidence or holding back evidence or not providing evidence that you know you're going to use at some point in an effort to take a tactical advantage. And the sanction for that is exclusion. I've never met this woman. First time I laid eyes on her was during the process after she flew out here to engage this voir dire process. She indicated I could potentially provide some information about this controversy concerning dog bites. I then sent her materials. I talked to her. I sent her materials. I found her to be incredibly credible. I found her to be experienced, and I found her to be knowledgeable in this very specific area, which is rare. There's not that many people who have published, doctors who have published in the area of dog bites specifically. So I thought it makes sense for me to reach out to her and talk to her, which is exactly what we did. And within a couple of days, literally, you could almost count it by the hours of me receiving her information, we then had a discussion amongst ourselves Is this somebody that we want to then present on the defense side, on the defense case, and we turn the information over to Mr. Lyle? I understand that it was well into the trial, but that's not a fault of ours, and I don't think the sanction of exclusion is necessary or appropriate to punish Ms. Reed from having an experienced witness testify in rebuttal to ultimately what Dr. Scorti-Bello and the Commonwealth is going to present in their case in chief. That's what she's going to do. She's going to present contrary evidence or an alternative theory of where those injuries came from to a person. Everybody on the Commonwealth side who can elucidate about this has said those injuries come from a taillight, including Mr. Paul yesterday. We have contrary evidence, and Ms. Reed should be entitled to present that evidence, even though it came late. It didn't come late by any fault of ours, and I don't believe that the Commonwealth has made out a prejudice that they can't overcome. It's late. Obviously, Mr. Lally is a skilled lawyer. There's nothing to say that he can't or hasn't been able to prepare for the cross-examination or for an examination in front of the jury. And I just don't think exclusion is appropriate.
All right, so the second part of this argument, and I'll start with the Commonwealth first. So in your motion to exclude, you also raise Daubert-type concern.
Now, this was very good by the defense. Yes, they're skilled. This isn't something new. They've known about it. This is, they can handle themselves. These are all the arguments Lally would be making himself. So I think they did a very good job of explaining themselves. Now let's get to the Daubert part. Is this subject to scientific review?
So, Mr. Lally, is there portions, if I permit her to testify, are there portions focused specifically on the part of her opinion where she says, I guess the defense expects her to be able to say she will testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material. I think you have an uphill battle on that part, Mr. Jackson. But Commonwealth, what are you saying? If she testifies, what should she?
Wait, hold on. What?
Commonwealth, what do you? Specifically, I permit her to testify. Are there portions focused specifically on the part of her opinion where she says, I guess the defense expects her to be able to say she will testify that these injuries are inconsistent with having been struck by a vehicle, road rash, or scratches from broken glass or taillight material.
Okay.
I think you have an uphill battle on that part, Mr. Jackson. But Commonwealth, what are you saying? If she testifies, what should she be able to testify to? And don't just say nothing. I want some input.
No. If the court were permitted to test the doctor to testify, Your Honor, what I would submit would be permissible testimony from a legal standpoint, as some factual questions in regard to that. But from a legal standpoint, I think the court could permit her to testify as to the injuries that she observed, her work in history in that area, observing prior injuries related to animal attacks and whatever consistency she believes that they have with that. I do not think it would be proper to allow this witness to testify or opine anything about the inconsistency with regard to pedestrian injuries. I don't think any proper foundation has been laid for there, whether it be through experiential knowledge in relation to that, or any sort of specialized training or knowledge, or anything to do with that. Anything from a forensic pathology or anatomical pathology perspective, I think should also be out of bounds and excluded with regard to this witness. She's certainly a very experienced emergency room physician. So anything in relation to that, I think is permissible.
But that doesn't make any sense, Lally. I get what your argument is. Well, she's all about dog bites. She can't talk about car accident. Okay. But she's worked in an ER. People with dog bites show up. People in car accidents show up all day long in ERs all the time. I mean, that's a majority of motor vehicle accidents are going to be a massive part of her treatment. So to say she can't take a look at those and diagnose it, I think like I don't think this works because yes, she has a somewhat generalized base of knowledge, but this is one of those times where that generalized base of knowledge has allowed her to cover all the appropriate areas. And they're not really vague, esoteric parts of medicine. It's like motor vehicle accidents, dog bites. It's like normal. So I don't agree with the argument he's making here.
But as far as the experience when it comes to motor vehicle crashes or pedestrian crashes, of which the court is well aware, there are a litany of different types of interactions a pedestrian can have with a motor vehicle in a collision sequence. And simply saying, well, there was no injuries to the leg, so it couldn't have been a motor vehicle collision is just plain wrong, and not backed up by science or anything else that this witness can testify to from the very limited experience she has in that realm. So if the witness were able or permitted by the court to testify, I would submit that her testimony should be relegated to simply what, if any, opinions, her experience, obviously, and then what, if any, opinions she draws with regard to the causation of the injuries on the right arm, as it pertains to consistency there. But I venture to guess that it's likely that those are probably also going to be, in her opinion, consistent with many other causes beyond that, if she's being reasonable.
All right, Mr. Jackson.
I'll submit, Your Honor. I have no issue with, I just said I'll submit, I'm not submitting. I have no issue with limiting her testimony to the animal attack issue, the dog attack issue. I didn't, as the court noted, I didn't spend any time. I think I may have asked one question that's consistent with the motor vehicle incident. I have no problem if the court wants to limit her testimony to the dog bite aspect and not the motor vehicle aspect. I wasn't planning on going into that aspect anyway. I've got another pathologist who's going to do exactly that.
But you did go through it with her, and it's on your disclosure.
It is, but I have no problem editing.
So why is it on the disclosure, or where the Commonwealth turned over, that she viewed all reports associated with Chloe's bite history in the UC Davis DNA testing? Why is that in there?
Because we set that in a Dropbox. We set everything in a Dropbox, and I assumed that she reviewed it. She must not have seen it or opened it or reviewed it. I didn't know. But that's what was sent to her. Everything that's in the disclosure is what was sent to her.
All right. If she's permitted to testify, you led her through quite a bit today. You won't be able to. I mean, she struggled with to what degree of certainty she held an opinion. She struggled to what she viewed. She didn't write a report. I have to consider all of these things too, as the gatekeeper, as to whether she can actually assist the jury. So I'm not deciding this right here. Mr. Lally, if I do permit her to testify, I will give you time to absorb this testimony and to find an expert in rebuttal for this. How long?
Really? Judge Cannoni, really? You're like, I don't know if I could find her credible? Are you fucking serious? Wow. Wow.
How long might something like that take?
It won't take that long at all. You're in Boston, Massachusetts. There are massive hospitals nearby. There are research hospitals with medical staff. You could find someone. It won't be that hard.
Not terribly long, Your Honor.
Okay, there he admits to it. It's not long.
As far as preparation, I can't give an exact time frame on that. As far as a rebuttal witness, I'd say a week at the most.
I just muted myself, but yes, it'll take him like a week to be ready with the witness, which isn't bad. That's actually, he's being honest. That's a pretty quick turnaround time. But yeah, you find a witness, say this lady's full of shit. Not that hard to do.
A week from today?
Yes.
Why don't you start looking at least? All right. Well, I decide I won't know until Thursday.
Sure.
All right.
Yeah,
All right.
it won't take
Anything
that
else
long.
on this
It won't
witness?
take that long.
Submitted, Your Honor.
All right. Next witness, please.
With regard to Dr. Wolf and Dr. Rensler, this is a different scenario, and I'm presuming that the court is asking for a year on their qualifications.
Well, I want to know who did what. I want to, they say we. I want to know who did what.
So is the court suggesting that I go through their entire testimony of exactly what they did, their testing, their opinions, conclusions, the bases of their opinions, conclusions?
However you want to do it, Mr. Jackson, we're here today on the Commonwealth's motion.
I realize that, but it's not the Commonwealth's motion to depose our experts. The Commonwealth's motion is they're not qualified as accident reconstructionists. I don't need to go, and I'm not inclined to give them a free bite at the apple to cross-examine these witnesses twice on the basis of their opinion. I will go through, I think, to the court's satisfaction. I don't think it's going to take long to figure out that they're extraordinarily qualified to render opinions, but I don't think it's incumbent upon me to walk through their entire testimony and give the Commonwealth a free bite at the apple like it's a deposition.
Whatever you want to do. I'm not telling you what to do. Whatever you want to do.
That's a fair argument, though. It's yes. Whatever you want to do. So basically, they have to do what they think is going to be good enough for her. That's kind of a fucked up standard. Tell me what you want, Judge. Whatever you think is best.
Would you like this?
So, Mr. Willoughby, I will give the court the case now and here, and should the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes.
Thank you.
We'll proceed and just speak very loudly into the microphone.
Whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Daniel Wolf, last name spelled W-O-L-F-E.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
I am the director of accident reconstruction at a company known as ARCA, A-R-C-C-A.
And tell us a little bit about ARCA. If you could explain to the court what ARCA is and what its primary mission is.
So ARCA is a forensic consulting engineering company. We have a variety of disciplines that include biomechanics, failure analysis, human factors, premise liability, crashworthiness, and accident reconstruction.
You said that you were the current director of accident reconstruction, correct?
That is correct.
Is that a specialty of ARCA specifically?
Yes, sir.
And what sort of contracts does ARCA routinely engage in?
We typically work for law firms, insurance carriers.
What about other clientele? For instance, maybe it's an insurance carrier or a law firm, but what about the ultimate client, the military, Department of Defense? Have you contracted with other entities or agencies, sporting agencies?
Certainly, yes. We've done research for the military. We do player safety for the NHL. So yes, we are involved in a number of research projects as well.
And in terms of
Those are pretty good. Like, what do you do? Oh, we do DOD research. That's pretty credible, chat. Pretty freaking credible.
ARCA and its commissions and consultation, is it known both nationally and internationally? Is it recognized as a leader in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes.
As the director of accident reconstruction, do you specialize in not only accident reconstruction, but human factors as well?
Yes, sir.
Can you give me a synopsis of the professional discipline of accident reconstruction? What is accident reconstruction?
Well, I think that's a very broad topic.
Now, guys, compare this definition of accident reconstruction to Trooper Ding Dong in his 300 hours. Let's compare this. Let's compare this. Memes. Hey, Josh, saying, is the guy on the stand the legal mindset we have at home? Yes, this is the legal mindset we have at home. Mom, I want legal mindset. We have legal mindset at home. So yeah, here we go. Oh, what? There we go. Got it back. Here we go.
I look at the cases that come across my desk. I've been involved with pedestrian impacts, and that can be pedestrians hitting the side of vehicles, fronts, backs, getting run over by vehicles, being struck by a vehicle, then projected into another vehicle. I've dealt with your simple fender bender collisions. I've dealt with collisions that involve 60-car pileups on a highway. So again, accident reconstruction in terms of the scope for a case, it can really vary case to case depending on the facts and circumstances of that case.
And when you say dealt with, are you talking about literally going into, from an engineering and a scientific standpoint, trying to reconstruct what happened, what the causal effects were of that accident, and what the results were, the resultant damage or injuries were?
Absolutely.
What about human factors? What does that discipline entail? What is human factors?
Well, to give you an example of that, so I do a lot of nighttime visibility work where, for instance, let's say a pedestrian's coming out onto the roadway at night. Maybe it's not a lit roadway and you're relying on your vehicle headlights to illuminate that pedestrian. So it's determining when would a driver recognize that individual on the roadway based upon the headlights, if there is any artificial lighting, their clothing. And then we look at how do drivers respond based upon that scenario that they're presented with. So we know that response times are different depending on the hazard that's presented to them. So if it's a pedestrian coming to the roadway, it's a vehicle stopping in front of you. So that's the application of human factors.
And that might include everything from passenger vehicles, commercial vehicles, bicycle issues, motorcycle issues, things of that nature.
Yes, sir.
Okay. What education, training, and background qualifies you to perform the duties that you just described as director of accident reconstruction at ARCA?
In terms of my educational background, I received a Bachelor of Science in Engineering from James Madison University back in 2012, along with a minor in mathematics. Some of my coursework while at James Madison included courses in physics, statics, dynamics, kinematics, material science, and your typical engineering sciences. Subsequent to my undergraduate degree, I then went on to the University of Delaware to pursue my PhD in electrical and computer engineering with a concentration in electromagnetics and photonics.
Did your research area also include physics, in addition to electromagnetics?
Yes, sir.
Optics?
Yes, sir.
Photonics?
Yes, sir.
And lighting?
Correct.
Are you accredited as a traffic accident reconstructionist?
Yes, sir.
By whom?
By an organization known as ACTAR, which is the Accreditation Commission for Traffic Accident Reconstructionists.
Are you trained in photogrammetry to determine vehicle crash and map scene evidence from photographs?
Yes, sir.
In other words, looking at a photograph rather than being at the scene, that is a specialty or a specific area of training that you've engaged, correct?
Yes, sir.
Are you trained in Bosch crash data retrieval analysis?
Yes, sir.
Otherwise known as CDR analysis, right?
Correct.
In terms of professional associations and accreditations, are you certified by the Society of Automotive Engineers?
Yes, I'm a member of that organization.
What about being a member of Optical Society of America?
Yes, sir.
Illuminating Engineering Society?
Yes, sir.
And finally, the National Association of Professional Accident Reconstruction Specialists?
Yes, sir.
You're accredited by all of those organizations, is that right?
I'm a member of all of those. Yes, sir.
Have you authored peer-reviewed articles in the area that we've just discussed?
I've authored a number of papers in the field of physics, and one of my most recent publications was that dealing with Toyota and Lexus vehicle control history records.
In 2021, did you author or co-author a peer-reviewed article known as Collision, the International Compendium for Crash Research Dealing with Vehicle Control History and Braking Issues?
Yes, sir.
Have you qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
Yes, sir.
Importantly, were you hired by the defense in this case?
No, sir.
Before this morning, when you walked into court, have you and I ever met face to face?
No, sir.
In terms of the commission that you were asked to undertake in this case, that have anything to do with the defense?
No, sir.
That have anything to do with the Commonwealth?
No, sir.
So a third-party agency hired you and commissioned you, or ARCA, with the responsibility of doing an accident reconstruction in this case, correct?
Correct.
The person to my left, the female to my left sitting here, you ever seen her before?
Nope.
Do you know who she is?
Yes.
How many times have you been qualified in other courts to testify as an expert in the area of accident reconstruction?
I think that's around 20 times to date.
In both federal and state court,
Just state court.
multiple states?
Yes, sir.
Your analysis, conclusions, and opinions are completely independent, whatever they are. Those analysis, conclusions, and opinions in this case are completely independent of the defense and of the Commonwealth. Have I got that right?
It's based on the evidence. That's correct.
And you're not paid by either side here in this courtroom.
Correct.
You and your team were asked to undertake a review for purposes of accident reconstruction of the case that's now pending before the court. Is that right?
That's correct.
Who at ARCA was assigned to the team who ultimately would undertake that analysis?
So it was myself, Dr. Andrew Rentschler, and Scott Klein.
And Scott Klein has a Master of Science, is that right?
I believe he's got a Bachelor of Science in Mechanical Engineering, yes.
In engineering.
Correct.
All right. And Dr. Rentschler is a PhD in what area?
Biomechanical Engineering.
Were you provided and did you review certain materials in furtherance of your consultation in this matter?
Yes, sir.
I can have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
I'd like to use my time efficiently, Doctor. I'm going to read through a number of materials that you reviewed. Before I do that, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I just want you to take a look at the first 2 pages of that document and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir.
What is that? What are those 2 pages?
These are the first 2 pages from the report that ARCA issued in regards to this matter.
Do you see a list of 14 items on those 2 pages?
Yes, sir.
Is that an accurate reflection of the items that you were provided by this other agency to review in terms of coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning this case?
Yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Those items include
So-
the Norfolk SPD.
So guys, this dude, I was saying, because I was listening to all this. Wow, like listen to him. I've done like 60 car crashes. I've done anything and everything. We've done work for the government. We've done work for the FBI, the DOJ, the DOD. You know, I am college educated. All of this, you know, these guys are actually good. You know, this isn't some rum-dum state trooper who lucked into the job. You know, this is, you know, PhDs in electrical and computational engineering. You know, a Bachelor of Science in Engineering with a minor in mathematics. You know, these guys are great. And, you know, he talked about like, what was one of the things you did a study on? Oh, the, you know, computer data for Toyotas and Lexuses. Like, this is what you want in an expert. Trooper Paul wishes he was this guy. You know, yes, he doesn't have an associate's in law enforcement administration. Yes. It's just ridiculous right now. Then Oldemeyer's saying, are you sure suicide by cop is not relevant here? Yes, I'm pretty sure. Yes. Football Mom says, hey, Sean, this expert is amazing. Well, thank you for being a member for 2 months as well. And then Football Mom for $5 is saying, great content, love your channel. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And Katie wanted to conclude, he could fix me. And Eric Fulham says he's the Etsy mindset. Oh. But yes, this guy, this is the type of expert you want. And Miss Mandy is saying for $1.99, who would have thought? An actual specialist. I know, chat. This is what professionalism and competency looks like. He's Crash Daddy. Okay. Yes, all the girls are femcooming, I know. All the seat bottoms across America are getting moist. So, but yes, this is a great expert. I mean, this is all the stuff you'd want. You know, he's the director of accident reconstruction, and he's been trained, and he's part of all these organizations. You know, this is, you know, and himself though he's done extra work. I mean, here's his CV. You know, he like take a look at some of the stuff he was doing here, chat. You know, he's working with Pine Bluff Arsenal and the United States Coast Guard, and Barksdale Air Force Base is doing energy audits. Like he's doing all kinds of stuff on his own when he's working in another place. You know, he's done stuff everywhere. You know, he's dealt with motorcycles, GPS data analysis. Look at his publications. Now, this makes the doctor look bad, but I mean, check this all out. Toyota vehicle control history, sudden braking history, researching recording characteristics. I mean, he put that out in 2021. What more of a direct expert could you have for this? What more of a direct expert could you have in this situation? I don't know the totality of his publication, but holy cow. You know, Lexus is Toyota. It's a Toyota, guys. You know, sudden braking history. And all of that. I mean, what I mean, just listen to some of this stuff. The evaluation of 3D printed optifluidic smart glass prototypes. I don't know what the fuck that means. The low cost of optifluidic smart gas. The initial study on controllable reflectorant roofing system to tailor build solar loads for increased HVAC efficiency. Megawatts. Optics, photonics, and energy savings. I mean, this guy is, and then this one here. An interactive sustainable infrastructure design model for health clinics in sub-Saharan Africa. This guy, jeez. I mean, I don't know what more you could do here. But yeah, this guy is, this dude's what you want. Oh, yes, Gordon Ramsay got in an accident on his bike. Yes, I've seen that picture where he's got like just a massive bruise. It's like, how are you not dead? So, all right, guys, here we go.
EU homicide death report, correct?
Correct.
Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of State Police crime scene report, correct?
Correct.
Fix the screen. What's wrong with the screen?
Dispatch removal report, correct?
Correct.
Photographs of the incident location.
Correct.
Videos of the incident location.
Correct.
Photographs of the 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Correct.
Photographs of recovered evidence.
Correct.
Crash data retrieval report from the 2021 Lexus 570.
Correct.
Report of autopsy.
Correct.
Autopsy photographs.
Yes.
Three-dimensional laser scan data of a Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
A VIN-Link, VIN capital LINK report sheet for the 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
Expert AutoStats data sheets for a 2021 Lexus LX 570.
Yes.
and publicly available literature, including but not limited to the documents cited within the report, learned treatises, textbooks, and scientific standards, correct?
Correct.
All of those items and data were reviewed by you and your team in coming to your conclusions and opinions in this case, correct?
Yes, sir.
And I'd like to ask you one other series of questions concerning sort of who did what. Your report indicates that there were, in no small part, 2 undertakings, if I can ask them in terms of pillars: the damage to the vehicle and the injuries to the body of John O'Keefe, correct?
I would say that's a fair characterization. Yes.
Okay. And I may be butchering this a bit because I'm not being very scientific, but were you more responsible for the vehicle damage or the injury damage?
The vehicle damage.
And who on your team was more responsible for the injury damage?
That would be Dr. Andrew Rentschler.
Obviously, Dr. Wolf, in coming to your opinions and conclusions concerning the damage to the vehicle, you had to consider the damage to the human being, correct, John O'Keefe?
Correct.
And as the team leader, in terms of Dr. Rentschler coming to his conclusions and opinions concerning the damage to the human being, he also had to consider the damage to the vehicle and the interplay of the two, correct?
Correct. We work together.
I was just going to say, is that how you two and Mr. Klein worked together to come to the opinions and conclusions that are cited in your multi-page report?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all I have, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Now, you went through a list of about 14 things that are contained within your report that your firm or your agency was provided with that you reviewed, correct?
That is correct.
Did you specifically review all 14 of those things, or was that done as sort of a team?
Yes, I looked through all of the documents.
So you personally looked at all 14 of those items that are listed within the report?
Yes, sir.
And you indicate that it was your opinions or what you did in this case that was, you were asked to answer specific questions, correct?
Yes.
It wasn't like you were just tasked with, hey, here's some facts, go do, or take a look at a crash reconstruction or read a crash reconstruction. You were asked very specific questions and you tried to answer them the best you could, correct?
I don't know that there were specific questions. I think ultimately it was an open-ended question.
But related to you testified as to 2 specific areas that your firm or your agency looked at, right?
Those are the disciplines that the report covers, yes.
So you testified about some other areas of expertise as far as human factors, visibility, luminescence, things like that. You didn't do any of those things here, correct?
Wasn't part of my scope in this case.
And the scope in your case, you indicate that it was based on the evidence, correct?
That is correct.
Now, to be fair, that's based on the evidence that you were provided, correct?
Correct.
So what did Mr. Klein do?
So as a part of the engagement with the entity that ultimately retained us in this, due to the confidentiality of it, only those who had access to the material to the file were allowed to review it and discuss it. And essentially, Scott Klein served as kind of another reconstruction expert to essentially bounce ideas off of and help with the review.
So for lack of a better term, sort of provided, let's say, sort of technical review of your work and Dr. Rentschler's work, is that correct?
I would say assist us with the analysis, yes.
Now, obviously, your firm or your agency issued a report in relation to what you did, correct?
That's correct.
And you've obviously had a time to review that report as far as what's contained in there factually, as well as conclusions and opinions, things of that nature.
Yes.
So is it your testimony that anything that has to do with anything factually, conclusions, opinions, or otherwise, in relation to the motor vehicle damage, those are your opinions, those are your conclusions, correct?
I would say that's fair, yes.
And again, based on the evidence that you were providing, correct?
Correct.
And so the facts or evidence or conclusions or opinions related to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, that was Dr. or Mr. Rentschler's area, is that fair to say?
Dr. Rentschler, yes.
And again, that was based on the evidence or whatever he was providing, correct?
Correct.
Which would be the same materials that you had testified that you had reviewed, correct?
Correct.
I have nothing.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson? All right, so, Doctor, I just have one question for you. What specifically were you asked to do?
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I didn't hear the court's.
What specifically were you asked to do?
So the agency that retained us gave us a selected quantity of file material related to this case, and essentially left it as an open-ended question. Ultimately, was the evidence consistent with a pedestrian interaction between Mr. John O'Keefe and the Lexus?
Okay, you said selected quantity of information. Who selected that information?
As far as I'm concerned, it would be the Department of Justice and the FBI.
All right, and they just gave you what they wanted to give you, as far as you know?
We had no say in what material was handed over to us.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any questions based on my questions?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Lally?
Just briefly,
And I apologize for this. I'm just unaware. Is it Mr. Wolf or Dr. Wolf?
Dr. Wolf is fine.
So, Dr. Wolf, when you say that you were asked specifically whether or not the evidence, the limited scope that you were provided was consistent with a pedestrian collision, were you asked sort of in general terms as far as any type of pedestrian collision, or were you asked specifically as far as biomechanically could say the injury to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head have been caused by contact with the vehicle? How open-ended was this question?
Again, I think it relates to, is the vehicle damage consistent with the pedestrian impact, and are the injuries consistent with the pedestrian impact?
And again, the whole panoply of injuries, is that correct?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
Let me rephrase. So did anybody specifically ask you to determine whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused by a motor vehicle?
I don't know that they asked us specifically. Again, they basically asked us to perform an accident reconstruction and biomechanical analysis and basically tell them our findings, and these are our findings.
And in the materials that you reviewed, did you see anything in there of any sort of statement, suggestion, intimation, anything at all that suggested that the injuries or the fracture to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head was caused by a motor vehicle?
In terms of direct contact?
Yes.
No, I don't believe so.
Nothing further.
Anything?
Nothing.
All right, Dr. Wolf, you are all set, sir.
Thank you.
Well, that was a good witness. I mean, like, clear and concise. We know what he's going to talk about. We know what he's going to say. I mean, really, like, yes, he was determined whether or not it looks like a car hit this guy. That's the only issue we care about anyway in this trial. Because if a car didn't hit him, Karen's not guilty. So, like, saying you were tasked for something, it's the most paramount task. Did this happen? Does it make sense? Not worrying about the fucking high top tables or whether Chloe went to a farm in Vermont. Did this guy get hit by a car? Yes or no? So that's why, like, trying to downplay it, I think that's kind of shitty.
just going to ask you to be mindful of the court and step up. You're going to remain standing.
You solemnly swear the evidence you give the court in the case now and hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Gotcha.
All right, whenever you're ready, Mr. Jackson.
Thank you, Your Honor. Sir, could you please state your name and spell your last name for the record?
Certainly. Dr. Andrew John Rentschler, Rentschler.
Sir, what do you do for a living?
I am a biomechanical engineer and accident reconstructionist.
In what area of the country do you live in?
I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
What is your title currently at your company?
I am a vice president and director of biomechanics for the Midwest Division.
And what is the name of that company?
It's called ARCA LLC.
And what is the main mission of ARCA? What does ARCA do?
So ARCA is a engineering consulting company, and we have several different types of engineers, biomechanical engineers such as myself, accident reconstructionists, mechanical engineers. We look at crash worthiness, safety of vehicles, and other types of events. So we really do all types of work. We do litigation type work, as well as research and development for government and private entities as well.
I may have just a moment, Your Honor.
Yes.
Can you give me a brief synopsis of the professional discipline of injury causation biomechanics? What is that?
So injury causation biomechanics is really applying traditional engineering principles to the human body. So as a biomechanical engineer, I look at the response of the body to accelerations and forces and determine how an injury occurs. You know, an injury to the human body is just an engineering problem. For instance, a mechanical engineer might look at a piece of steel and you know the size of the steel and the shape of it. And if you apply a force in a certain direction, that steel will bend and eventually break. Well, we do the same thing, but we look at the human body. How much force do you have to apply, and how does that force have to be applied in what direction or manner to get a specific injury, whether it's a skull fracture, an intervertebral disc injury, a concussion. So we look at the response of the human body to different forces and accelerations in different types of settings. And ultimately, our hope is to help mitigate or prevent injuries, whether it's in a motor vehicle accident, sports setting, industrial setting, auto pedestrian impact, try and make products and environments safer for individuals.
And that's different from what medical doctors do, correct?
It is, yes, sir.
Little boy walks into an ER with a broken arm. The medical doctor wants to reset the arm and fix the arm, correct?
That's right, yes.
What does a biomechanical engineer want to learn about the broken arm?
We want to learn how that break or that fracture occurs. I always say that we kind of approach injuries from two different directions. You have an injury occur. After it occurs, moving forward, that's when the medical doctors get involved. They diagnose the injury, determine the best way to treat it, what's the prognosis. As a biomechanical engineer, I kind of take the reverse direction. We look at, here's the injury, here's what's diagnosed. Well, how did that injury occur? You know, how much force do you have to apply to cause that fracture? How did the bone have to be loaded? How did it bend to actually cause a specific type of fracture? So we really kind of approach the injury from two different directions.
Understood. And given that scientific approach, oftentimes you can come to conclusions and opinions, scientific conclusions and opinions about the causation of an injury, correct?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, ultimately, that's what biomechanical engineering is how does an injury occur? Why did it occur? And what type of setting did the injury actually occur? What type of load?
Kimmy, I'm going to warn you, like, stop. Okay, we've heard about the Prosecutors podcast. Okay, please stop.
And what type of kinematics do you need to have this injury actually occur?
Can you tell the court a brief synopsis on the discipline of human factors? What part does that play in what you do for a living?
Well, human factors is a large part of it as well. I mean, from a biomechanical standpoint, we look at the body. We have to know anatomy. We have to know the makeup of the body. And then human factors plays a part of it as well, as how individuals respond or what their response is to different types of environments or reactions. It really all plays into looking at a specific event. How did someone react? How did their body move? How was the body loaded? There's all different types of factors that you have to apply. The human factors, kinematics, kinetics, biomechanical, musculoskeletal interactions. It's all these different factors
That's
that are really
funny.
involved in performing an analysis to ultimately look at injury causation.
Doctor, as the Director of Biomechanics and Human Factors at ARCA, what education, training, and background qualifies you to perform those duties?
Well, I got my Bachelor's of Science in Mechanical Engineering with a minor in Biomedical Engineering from Carnegie Mellon University in 1995. I then went on to get my Master's in Bioengineering and Biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2002. And then I got my PhD or my doctorate in bioengineering and biomechanics from the University of Pittsburgh in 2004.
Can you give us a brief work history up to and before ARCA?
Sure. So I got my my PhD in 2004, and then since then I've worked in the consulting field for biomechanics. I've worked for a company out in Davis, California for a while called Biomechanical Engineering Accident Reconstruction. I then joined another engineering company in Jacksonville, Florida for about 3 years called Chesapeake Engineering and Design. And I have now been with ARCA for approximately 16 and a half years.
And in those positions and in your position currently as a director at ARCA, do you specialize in research and analysis attendant to evaluating and studying the relationships between crash injuries, crash forces, human kinematics, and human tolerances?
I do. I mean, that's really what I do on a daily basis, whether it be in litigation type cases or the research and development we do for different companies or entities, or even internal research that we perform at ARCA.
Doctor, what professional associations and accreditations do you have?
I'm a member of the American Society for Mechanical Engineers, as well as the Society for Automotive Engineering. With respect to biomechanical engineering, there's no actual professional licensure for biomechanical engineering. So a PhD or a doctorate is the highest degree you can have in that field.
Are you also a reviewer for archives of physical medicine and rehabilitation and biomechanical engineering online?
I am, yes. Well, usually if you publish articles in a journal, usually that journal comes back to you and asks you to be a reviewer. So I certainly do that type of work as well.
I'd like to ask you a couple of questions about your ongoing education, your professional education after your PhD. Have you continued your education in areas of biomechanics and high impact injuries from the NTSB?
No, the prosecutor himself doesn't have a podcast, guys. There's a there is a there's this. It's called the Prosecutors. They have what's called the prosecutorspodcast.com. Okay. So that's what's being spammed. It's not Lally, guys. It's not Lally. All right. They call themselves the Prosecutors. And yeah, they are obviously they're shilling for the state, so that's their thing.
I've taken classes through the NTSB and SAE, the IPTM, Police Technology Management Training Center. There's several different entities I've taken biomechanical and accident reconstruction courses through.
So the alphabet soup, if you will, of biomechanical engineering and human factors.
Right, yes.
And you continue that today?
I do, yes, sir.
Any specific training in human kinematics?
Yes, I do have training in human kinematics.
Just out of curiosity, how would you define what is kinematics?
So kinematics is the motion of the human body and looking at how the body moves. And it's irrelevant or irrespective of the forces that cause that motion. So we're really looking at for instance, how one body part moves with respect to the next. We can see how the body moves as a result of a specific type of event.
You mentioned injury mechanics previously in one of your answers. What is injury mechanics and how does that relate to biomechanics?
So again, that's a subset of biomechanics, looking at the response and the strength of the different parts of tissue of the human body. On a very basic level, to get an injury or have an injury occur, you need really two factors. You need...
Kimmy, I warned you. You can come back tomorrow.
Enough force to cause injury to the tissue, and you need that force applied in the right manner. So if I wanted to fracture my elbow, I certainly couldn't take a hit on my shoulder and expect my elbow to fracture. Its force is exerted in the wrong location. And likewise, if I just lean my elbow on the counter here, that's not enough force. So you need the force and you need the application of that force in the correct manner to produce what we call an injury mechanism.
And have you ever participated in any studies or research in this area? In addition to your dissertation, getting your PhD, what about additional studies and research in this general area?
I have, yes, sir.
Can you describe that for us briefly?
Certainly. Well, just at ARCA, I've worked with the United States military. We worked on the design of the MRAP vehicles, the mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles over in Iraq and Afghanistan.
That's a troop carrier, correct?
That's correct, yes. And the issue there is they go over the IED, the improvised explosive device, and it blows the vehicle up off the ground. So you're getting very large forces and accelerations through the vehicle, through the seat, into the soldier's spines. So we're seeing very traumatic and severe spinal and head injuries. So at ARCA, we work on what we call an energy absorbing seat design. So when the vehicle gets blown off the ground, that seat is designed to absorb the force and the energy to protect the soldier's spine and their head.
Did you take part in the design of that seat?
I did, yes, sir.
Has that been employed by the Department of Defense?
Yes, it has been.
And are troops utilizing that new seat design, that safety seat design in that troop carrier to this day?
As far as I know, it's from what they'll tell us, yes, sir.
See, chat, Karen Reed's experts love America. They're protecting the troops and helping kill terrorists. What is Trooper Paul doing to help America? Now, here's the interesting thing, guys. Listen to him talk. He's talking in such a way that it's clear and concise. It's very basic. You know, talking about how you did how injuries would come about. I mean, listen to him. He can explain this. He can explain this to me like I'm 5 and I can understand it. Listen to Trooper Paul, he barely knows what he's been taught.
Understood. Are you also published in this field, Doctor?
I am, yes.
Can you give us a couple of examples of current studies that you're involved in or publications that you've done in the recent past concerning bioengineering and the impact or the association that it has with human factors?
Sure. I mean, and another project I'm working on is we work with the NHL actually at ARCA. We have an ongoing, we have an ongoing relationship with the Department of Player Safety. For instance, we helped redesign part of the rink. In every arena, they had at the end of the player area, there was basically a 90-degree stanchion where the glass met. And so players were kind of getting checked down in the boards and then hitting up against the glass. And actually, somewhat ironically, it was Chara hitting Pacioretty into the glass, the Boston-Montreal game, and caused a cervical fracture and concussion. And the NHL came to us to see if we could have a redesign of the rink to make it a little safer. So we took crash test dummies, the anthropomorphic test device, which you've probably seen on TV, the automotive manufacturers use them all the time, and threw them into different configurations of glass. And now in every arena in the NHL, it is basically a curved piece of spring-loaded Lexan or plexiglass, where the players now, they hit into it, it absorbs the impact, and they glance off of the glass.
What? Is that a design?
What? They're behind that? That's interesting. Wow. Wow. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, that is a that's interesting. You know, wow. Yeah, so Chara was a former Boston Bruins player, if you guys don't know. And he put Chiretti up, and hold on, if I could show an NHL modifies plexiglass bench. Yeah, here we go. Okay, let me see. Let me see if there's a good images here, because where he's talking about is the corner of the bench. And where the bench is, yeah, you know what? This might work. Hold on here. Actually, this is a good example. This is a great example of what he's talking about. Okay, guys, so this is an ice rink, okay? Part of what he's talking about is when you get in an ice rink, this is over here. This is the penalty box. These are the benches right here and here, okay? There's no glass right here on the bench because you guys have probably seen in the NHL, in college and for kids, you hop over the boards to get out, you come in through the gate, or you can go over the boards and whatever. Well, it's at the corners right here where the corners of the benches is where the plexiglass starts up again on the rink. And you get checked into that, yeah, because you can get rode up on top of the boards and back into it. It's actually kind of a dangerous spot. And it's interesting, they fixed it by making it, they put a curve there that's spring-loaded versus a hard corner. Interesting. That's kind of cool. That's a very infamous hockey injury in the past couple of years. Yes, it's only on the team bench sides. Yes, because where the penalty box is on this side, guys, this is where the penalty box and the scoring is. The plexiglass runs all the way around. Oh, hold on here. Here's what it looks like. You have plexiglass running like this, all the way around in front of the penalty box and the scoring booth, and then like this. And it goes like that. So that's why where the player's bench is so dangerous. Because it's an open kind of pit with the corners, and that corner is where you can get hurt. So it doesn't help if, well, yeah, opening the door, like I've seen people get yeah, the Pack You Ready hit brings up a couple-minute video. We can watch that hit if you want to. Yeah, hold on here. You know what? I wonder if, hold on, let me see if I can find it on YouTube. Yeah, actually, here we go. We have access to it. Here we go. I didn't think this would be on here, but it makes sense. So here we go. It's the, real quick, guys, Boston Bruins versus the Montreal Canadiens, also known as the Habitants. Two of the original teams in the NHL going at it. Here we go.
Wins it clear to the far side of the zone. Oh, Pacioretty is down.
Yeah, you see that? Cervical spine fracture. We'll slow that down just a bit. We'll go half speed. Life comes at you fast in hockey, even for kids.
Side of the zone. Oh, Pack.
That's how fast hockey is. This isn't even getting it fast enough. Here we go. Let's try that again. And like I showed, you've got these corners right here. See, there's the corner. And then it's, that's the corner they're talking about. And as we keep going, you're going to see another corner. This is the other corner I talked about, chat, right here. This is the other corner. Right there. And that's this corner right here. Let's watch it.
So, oh, Pacioretty is down face first as Chara angled him, and Pacioretty was lined up against the center glass between the two benches. It's a very hazardous part of the ice. Brick.
Yeah.
I know you had a severe shoulder injury when you had a situation where
it was really fucking bad. Yeah, it broke his back. Yes, Chris Draper and Claude Lemieux had similar hits, but this was worse. Meme says, what if they go down to the center line then reach around the defense? Jeez. Young is saying, how do we get to this? This involves like just the knowledge base. These guys aren't just, when there's a car crash, I go and look at it. No, these guys have a rounded education, an education in depth is more or less what this is trying to show. Is he paralyzed? No, but he got really fucking hurt. He got really, really hurt bad. He got hurt really, really, really bad. I mean, he still plays. So that's, I mean, he came back during the, he came back the next year. He had a C4. Actually, hold on here. Yeah, he had a C4 fracture. So it was in his cervical spine all the way up at the top. But yeah, he was out for the rest of the season, and since then he's been playing. So, and yeah, he plays right now for he actually is for. He played for the Caps last season. Played for the Capitals. I don't know who he's playing for right now, but he did a 1-year stint with the Caps, and he just finished it. So there you go. It's just, guys, this stuff is important. It just shows you these guys have a rounded education. They're highly competent. They can, it's not just, cars getting hit. I could base off my knowledge off of guys getting blown up by fucking bombs or guys getting almost paralyzed in an ice hockey game. They have a rounded education, a wide depth to which draw their knowledge on. So that helps. It helps because just being I go car crash isn't helpful. Because everything's a car crash.
It is, yes.
So both from the United States military as well as professional sporting leagues, they've come to you to help save lives, lower risk.
That's right. Mitigate and prevent injuries. Yes, sir.
What about crash and sled testing?
Yeah, I've performed a number of crash and sled tests. When you look at, any vehicle that's driven in the United States, it has to pass federal motor vehicle safety standards. There's federal regulations that they have to pass. And, part of that involves running the vehicle into a wall at 35 miles an hour, hitting it from behind, rollover type impacts. And they have these crash test dummies in those vehicles. So we perform a lot of testing for different cases and situations where we put that dummy in the vehicle and we evaluate the safety system, whether it's the lap and shoulder belt or if it's the airbag or the seatbelt pretensioner, determine how to make the car safer. And part of that is looking at the force that's exerted on that dummy because there's tolerance values. We know how much force it takes to cause specific injuries. So we want to make sure in certain instances at certain speeds or impacts that if someone's in an accident, the force acting on, say, their head or their neck or their chest is going to be below these established tolerance values.
Speaking of how much force it takes to cause an injury to a human body, have you engaged in any testing or published in the field of auto pedestrian incidents?
Yes, I've been involved in a number of studies where we're looking at auto pedestrian type impacts. Again, a lot of times we'll utilize the crash test dummy where we'll set it up and we'll actually have it struck by different vehicles or different objects to look at the response of the body. It's very important if you're talking about an auto ped type impact. You have to know the configuration of the pedestrian, the vehicle, where they hit on the vehicle, whether it's a projection type impact, a wrap, a fender vault. It really all depends on how the person's positioned and the amount of force and speed involved in that type of an impact.
And staying with that for a second, that basic subject matter, have you also engaged in studies related to slips and falls where somebody might fall from a standing position and injure themselves either to their head, shoulders, whatever, and those kinds of injury impacts.
I have, yes. And then one of the issues we look at it there is a lot of people fall, especially elderly people. So we want to look at what types of forces are being produced. You look at hip fractures, if you slip and fall backwards, head fractures. So we're trying to determine how to prevent those falls from happening and also create devices or products that can help actually prevent injuries if someone does take a fall.
Doctor, have you been retained as an expert in the area of biomechanical engineering and human factors in the past?
I have, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
Can you take a look at that document and tell me if you recognize it?
This is a list of my deposition and trial testimony.
Your Honor, I provided that to the court this morning.
Yes, I appreciate it. I had a chance to look at it.
Okay. That's about I don't want to go through everything. That's about a 14.
So yes, these guys, the federal government hired these guys, but Karen's using their work. So the federal government already paid these guys to do all the work. So Karen's kind of getting the benefit of that. That all this research they did before, Karen doesn't have to pay for. Karen's paying for their time to come in and testify, sure. But the initial, let's say these guys needed like 30 grand to do all the research. The Fed's already paid for that. So they're kind of getting free homework out of this. They're copying someone else's homework, which is perfectly legitimate.
Page document, is that correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
Let me just ask it this way. How many times do you think you've been qualified as an expert in the field or testified as an expert in the field of biomechanics, biomechanical engineering, and human factors?
I've testified probably over 150 times in numerous state, federal, civil, and criminal courts throughout the country.
Your Honor, I'm sorry, may I approach?
Yes.
For the purposes of voir dire, Your Honor, I would ask that this document be marked.
Sure.
Thank you. Have you ever testified in criminal court as an expert in biomechanical engineering?
I have, yes.
How recently have you testified in criminal court?
Well, actually, I've testified twice. The end of May, I think May 31st, I testified in McKean County, Pennsylvania. For the prosecution, it was a case where the defendant was accused of beating his girlfriend to death and basically said that she fell down the steps. So my testimony involved determining how her injuries occurred and that they were entirely inconsistent with what would have happened during a stair fall.
What about another case?
And then about a week after that, around June 6th or 7th, I testified in Cambria County, Pennsylvania, again for the prosecution for another homicide case where the defendant was accused of essentially beating his wife to death and then said that she actually fell backwards and struck her head, caused a skull fracture on the side of the sink. So my testimony, again, pertained to looking at the injury mechanisms and determining that his story of her falling back and striking her head on the sink, it's inconsistent with the injuries and the type of force that would have been exerted in that case.
In both of those murder cases, you were hired or retained by the prosecution in the case, not by the defense, correct?
That's correct, yes, sir.
You gave your opinions in furtherance of the prosecution's case in chief, not the defense case in chief, correct?
That's correct, yes.
With regard to this case, you were asked to look at several items. We've already gone over those in the other testimony, so I won't belabor that. You were asked to look at several items, correct?
I was, yes.
And ultimately, based on that series of information, that universe of information that you were provided, see if you could come to an opinion and conclusion concerning the incident before the court now, correct?
That's right. See if I could determine what happened, how the injuries occurred, and the events leading up to and during that process.
Without going into your conclusions and opinions, were you able to come to conclusions and opinions to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty?
I was, yes, sir.
You were not hired by the defense, by me, or anybody on the defense side in this case, correct?
That's correct. I was not.
You were not consulted with or hired by the Commonwealth either.
That's correct. I was not.
It was a completely independent agency, is that right?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Before this morning, have you and I ever met?
No, sir.
And you and I have never talked about the substance of your opinion and conclusion, correct?
We have not. That's correct.
You did reduce those opinions and conclusions in conjunction with your team to a report, is that right?
I did, yes, sir.
And your understanding is that report was made available both to the defense and the Commonwealth in this case. Is that right?
Yes, sir. That's correct.
I have nothing further.
Okay, Mr. Lally?
Thank you, Your Honor.
Good guess.
Just a few questions for you, sir. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir.
Now, with relation to your work in this instance, in this case, were there any limitations as far as confidentiality or anything that were put on you or any of your team?
What do you mean by
As
confidentiality?
far as who, what, where, and how you could discuss what you did?
Well, yeah, I mean, certainly we just discussed with who we were retained by in this case. I don't believe I discussed the case with anybody else except for my cohorts who were also involved in the case.
And so my question, sir, more is geared towards, at some point you were made aware that your report and your findings were made available to both the prosecution and the defense in this case, correct?
I was made aware of that, yes, sir.
And when you were made aware of that, was there any limitations on given to you as far as who you could discuss your report, your findings, or anything with?
Yeah, basically given the direction or the request that I don't actually discuss the substance of my opinions or my report with anybody aside from who we were originally retained to work for.
Now, may I approach, Your Honor?
Yes.
I don't.
Sir, I am going to show you the first couple pages
How is that gonna? How do these arguments help you here, Lally?
of your report, specifically right down the bottom. There's a list of items 1 through 14. I asked you to just review those.
Okay.
Now, is that the totality of information that you and your firm were provided with in reference to what you did in this case?
I believe it was, yes, sir.
So nothing beyond that list of 14 things did you have occasion to look at, review, or have any opportunity to see at any time?
Well, aside from we did do testing in this case, so we did do other
Aside
work.
from your independent testing, I'm asking as far as material provided by whoever employed you, that is a sum and total of what you received, correct?
I believe that would be correct, yes, sir.
And did you personally review each of those 14 items? Because, and I don't fault you or your company for this, but within the report, there's a lot of wheat. So what I'm asking is, did you personally review each of those 14 items that are listed in that report?
I did personally review every bit and every page of information that was provided in this case, yes, sir.
And
Okay, now that's funny. Lally was gonna get him like, "Are you sure you reviewed everything?" And the guy's like, "Yeah, I did." And Lally's like, "Oh, moving on." Huh. Oof.
to be clear, just to sort of close the loop on this, when it comes to those 14 items, were you allowed to ask for any additional items, or was it just you were limited to this is what you have, go form an opinion?
There may have been discussion about if there's other information available, but I believe ultimately that we rendered our opinions obviously just on this specific information that was
And
provided
presumably
to
what they
us.
were given was more than
Now, as
enough.
far as your opinion in your report, when was that issued?
February 12th of 2024.
So that date on the top of the report of February 12th, 2024, that's when you sent the report to the people that contracted you to do the analysis in the first place.
That's correct, yes, sir.
May I approach you?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Now, am I correct? And what I'm trying to ascertain here, Doctor, is just sort of the different roles that you and the other members of your team performed in reference to this. Am I correct in that your primary role in this pertained to the sort of biomechanical engineering analysis of injuries sustained by Mr. O'Keefe?
That would be correct, yes, sir.
And not to put too fine a point on it, but Dr. Wolf would have been more responsible for issues related to the vehicle itself.
Generally speaking, yes, that would be correct.
Obviously, there's some interaction between damage to the vehicle and injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, but as far as your primary sort of any opinions contained within this report pertaining to injuries to Mr. O'Keefe, those would be your opinions, correct?
Yes, any opinions or information with respect to the injuries would be my purview and my opinions in this matter. Yes, sir.
And concomitantly, so any opinions related to damage to the motor vehicle, those would be opinions of Dr. Wolf, is that right?
Well, to some extent, I mean, certainly I would have opinions as well based on the interaction or alleged interaction between the body and, for instance, the vehicle in this case, and what damage to both the body as well as the vehicle you would expect. So I think there's basically some overlap between those issues. I wouldn't say that it's a complete separation.
And so, and again, Doctor, what your opinions or ultimate conclusions are, whether they be yours or Dr. Wolf's or a combination of the two, it's all limited based on the information and the evidence that you received, correct?
It certainly is based on the information that we reviewed and listed in our report. Yes, sir.
Now, as far as sort of a mandate or from the agency that hired you, were you asked to answer a specific question, or were you asked to just do an analysis based on what we sent you, or how was that put to you as far as what you were doing?
There was a specific request that we were asked to perform and to evaluate in this case.
And specifically what I'm asking, sir, is there's an analysis in there of whether or not the injuries to the back of Mr. O'Keefe's head could have been caused from contact with the vehicle, correct?
That is part of my analysis and opinions, yes, sir.
And were you specifically asked to address or answer that question by the agency that hired you?
That was one of the questions I was specifically asked, yes, sir.
I have nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Jackson?
Thank you.
All right, so Doctor, I have a couple of questions for you, sir. So regarding the specific request, what were you tasked to do specifically?
So specifically overall, I was tasked from the biomechanical standpoint to determine or see if it's possible to determine how the injuries in this case occurred. And part of that was determine whether the injuries, the head injury and the arm injuries resulted from contact with the Lexus in this case.
Okay. And regarding all of your prior testimony, a good deal of it seems to be in depositions. Any of those in Massachusetts?
There's a couple, I believe. I've testified at trial in Massachusetts,
Okay.
Middlesex Superior Court.
Do you know where that might be? I do want to look at that.
I can find it for you, maybe a couple of months ago.
Was it in a criminal case or a civil case?
Oh, it was in civil case. I
Okay.
think, let's see here. I think, yeah. So let's see. There was one November 14th, 15th, 2023, Middlesex Superior Court.
Wait. Is she trying to big league him here about like, well, what courts have you done in my state? Are you doubting his capabilities as a credible witness, Bev? I mean, really, that's what you're going to do here? If you're going to do this kind of logic, anytime someone becomes a first-time expert in your state, Trooper Paul was his first, he had to testify at one point, his first time. You would have not allowed him in then. Is that what you're trying to tell me here? Bev, come on. Come on. You are just acting like a hack right now. Like, seriously, this is what she's going to do?
That was probably the most recent one.
Hey, what number is that on there if I want to go back and look at it?
That is number 310.
Thank you. Is there another Massachusetts case?
Oh, I'm sure there are, because I know there's some from earlier in my career. Let me see. See if I can find them for you real quickly here. Yes. So there's Connecticut. was with Louisiana. Oh, there's 68. I'm gonna butcher it. Worcester.
Worcester. Is that a civil or criminal case, doctor?
That is a civil case as well.
Okay. What year was that?
Oh, that one was 2012.
Okay. Any others that you think of or you see?
There may have been a couple others. I don't recall off the top.
All right, I'll go through it more closely. I
Sure.
appreciate you saving me some time.
Absolutely.
All right, any questions based on my questions?
No, thank you, Your Honor.
No.
All right, you are all set, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Your Honor.
All right, so Mr. Lally, I will hear you on your motion. Now, we didn't get into the ultimate opinions and the basis for that opinion, but I'll hear you on your motion.
Your Honor, what essentially what Commonwealth was seeking and had been seeking was just in reference to that, as far as who did what and who was responsible for what and what were the items reviewed, and is that the totality of it? There's a date on the report. I don't know if that was a date as far as when it was filed, when it was opinion was rendered, when that was provided, what was provided to them in the course of their analysis. So I think very simply what the Commonwealth had been seeking for the most part was covered today.
Okay. All right, I have some questions as to the scope of the testimony of the witnesses. So, Mr. Jackson, you intend to have them testify
I'm not sure what Lally's like. He's going to be able to say, oh, you did this and you've done that. And they are going to demolish your experts, Lally. They are like these guys, you know, the whole thing about kinematics. Your guy couldn't explain it at all. And the other guy's like, yeah, I do it all the time. The other guy's like, yeah, we all do kinematics. We're engineers. We've had training. So I don't know why Lally thinks this is going to help, but okay. Let's see.
consistently with the report, everything covered in the report?
Correct.
And the conclusions, all 4 conclusions in the report?
Correct.
All right, Mr. Lally, what's your take on this?
I do have an issue with number 4. I don't think they're qualified to testify to. I don't think either of them is qualified to testify to that. That's more of an area of forensic pathology.
What do you say to that, Mr. Jackson?
Is he saying they can't testify whether the injuries are consistent? I mean, there's pathology, but they could say, literally, can the body generate that kind of injury? That's an issue of physics and biomechanics.
Number 4 is, their opinion is, there is currently insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's skull brain injuries or the circumstances surrounding the event. That is well within the scope of their expertise. Obviously, I don't think I have to beat this dead horse. They are highly, highly qualified to render all 4 opinions. And if the evidence in their opinion, their expert opinion, to a reasonable degree of scientific certainty, is what.
See, this is where he should be hammering it, though. They're biomechanics. How does the body move? How does force move? The one has actual experience. This last guy, actual experience in cervical spinal injuries. That's better than pathology. He can talk about injuries and forces and acceleration on the head and spine and the neck. Yeah, this idea, he can't talk about it, I think, is nonsense. Absolute nonsense.
Evidence to your body report is that there is insufficient evidence to determine the cause of Mr. O'Keefe's injuries, then that is an opinion that they are well within it's well within the scope of what they can testify to. That's their opinion, that's their conclusion. Mr. Lally is going to have an expert, Trooper Paul, who is going to differ, or who has differed in that opinion. So be it.
And I would have kept it out. Remember, I would have kept out any medical part had there been an objection. And when you objected, I sustained the objection.
No, I think we're talking about two different things, apples and oranges. I didn't, that's not, Trooper Paul's opinion is that his injury or his injuries, or I think he said variously that it was blunt force, could have come from the curb, or it was blunt force because the road is blunt. That was his opinion, and he was sticking to it. This is contrary to that. Both of these individuals have come to the conclusion and opinion that the evidence is insufficient to support that determination, and it's well within their purview to testify to that.
Your Honor, if I may, I don't think that's their actual opinion. I initially didn't think of it in these terms as it's phrased on the cover page of the report. If you look at the actual opinion
I
and
was looking at
findings,
the last page. Are they the same on the front and the back?
I think the front is a little more definitive and concerning. The back, I think, more as to it's consistent with a whole multitude of different things. So the fact that I don't really think that's an opinion at all, to be honest with you.
All right, I'll take a look at this more closely, give you a decision Thursday. All right, I did not expect it to go this quickly. We could have had the jury here, but I'm sure you all could use the afternoon to prepare. All right, Mr. Lally, let me know Thursday if you need, are you ready to go forward at least with your case on Thursday?
Oh, yes, sure.
Let me know Thursday if you need additional time. If I let these witnesses, if I let Dr. Russell testify, how that impacts our schedule.
Absolutely, Your Honor.
All right, but I don't want that to be a concern of yours, how it impacts the schedule. That's my concern. I just need to know. All right, so anything else?
For the Commonwealth.
I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, we'll see you Thursday morning.
Court, all rise.
All right. Sunshine says I'll make Dr. Wolf all mine. There's gonna be a fight for Dr. Wolf outside the courthouse. Sunshine and Katie and everybody fighting for him. But what does this mean, actually? I get the feeling she's gonna try to curtail them a little bit. I think her biggest problem is these last two are highly qualified. They're far more qualified than what's going on. The clip of Karen talking outside the court, I heard about this. I have not seen it. But what does this do? I mean, the first one, the doctor, I kind of get the feeling she's going to get restricted to an extent. She's going to get restricted to an extent. I'm not sure what. I'm not sure what'll happen there otherwise. With that one, I can see that one getting restricted. So there is this Karen Reed thing here. Hold on, we'll bring this up in a second. But I think otherwise these attorneys are these experts are highly trained and highly educated. Yeah, that was very weird the way she commandeered some of that stuff. Yeah, the doctor's only going to get to talk about animal stuff. And I think she kind of held herself out that way. So that's fine, though, because she could say, yeah, I don't think that's consistent with this. And then the other two could say, yeah, this doesn't make sense for watching somebody get hit by a car. So it doesn't hurt them. It doesn't hurt them that bad. It's, actually it'd be better. So let's just, why aren't my Juneteenth decorations out? Yeah, they also have another expert. There's 4 total experts. We only covered 3 of them. So, especially this Dr. Rentschler, I think he's going to do a very good job of explaining stuff. They are going to do a very good job. And then the other guy, the first guy, Wolf, he could talk about, remember how they were hammering him on the ignition sequences and the starting things? He can really talk about all that shit. He's like, I'm an electrical engineer. I understand. I'm not only am I an electrical engineer, I'm a computer engineer. So I understand computational science. So he's like, I can tell you about the electrical aspect of it, but how the computer itself works. So they're in really, 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 really good shape. Yes. And they do have a full-on medical examiner they're going to use, which will be great, which will be good for them. Now, Karen Reed did speak to the press. Let's get to this because I want to hear this. I've not heard it. So let's see.
I'd like to fill in some holes and correct some lies, but it's up to the attorneys and they'll make the call probably at the 11th hour.
And that right there.
Oh my God, Karen's got a Oh my God, Karen has a Boston accent too. Why? Why, Karen? Why? Why? Why do you have to have it too? Why do all you people have to sound obnoxious? Why do you all have to sound obnoxious?
There, of course, Karen Reed speaking outside of Norfolk Superior Court today. If it was up to her.
Does he have a speech impediment or is he covering up his accent? I can't tell.
She'd testify in her own murder trial.
And the jury had the day off today, but attorneys were in court. They were questioning potential witnesses for the defense. NBC 10's Katie.
Jim Satala, if you're out there, this guy looks like your brother. Kind of looks like your long-lost brother.
Benoit has the update.
There is no case against me.
Karen Reed outside court after a rare.
I don't want to hear you talk. I want to hear her talk. So here she comes with the squad.
My private life, and it's smoke and mirrors, and it's going through
Thursday.
Here we
according
go.
to defense attorneys.
It's smoke and mirrors, and it's going through my private life and trying to contrive a motive that was never there.
Dr. Marie Russell from Los Angeles is on the list.
Okay, I want to skip.
A dog, her SU involved
Asking that the
go.
I want to skip ahead to Karen.
As the Commonwealth can have a
Okay, so no more Karen. That was just a little bit. Oh my God, Karen. Yeah, smoking mirrors. Karen is from Dayton, Massachusetts. Dayton, I thought every Massachusetts-born resident has an accent. Where is she? It's Fall River. Did you not listen to Proctor? Luke, it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing to me. You're asking me to differentiate the dialects of Massachusetts. I'm not doing that. They're all the same thing. Yes, my image of Karen has been shattered. Guilty! Guilty, Your Honor! Guilty for prison for having that accent. It's Fall River jerk. It's all Massachusetts accent. There goes our hopes of a potentially criminal and Kirsha collab. She doesn't have an accent when I've listened to her talk. Oh, Karen has a slightly Boston accent. Yeah, it's outside. Okay. But guys are sweeping up for Karen. You know what that is? All you guys just sweeping it up. Just sweep. Karen sweepers. Come on now. Sweeping it up for the Massachusetts. Oh, there's a better one. Okay. All right, hold on here. Okay, there's a little bit more of Karen we're going to listen to instead of you guys sweeping. Did the news mention those were federal witnesses? Yeah. Lucas says, yeah, the area between Boston and Providence, where I don't have a mismatch of mud accents, very nasally. To an outsider, it all sounds the same. Will says Fall River is a massive ghetto. Okay, I'm learning a lot there. Apparently, they all think her accent is horrible. Could you imagine? Luke says, I could differentiate, and I'm all the way over here. Jim says, you looking for me? Yeah, I think we found your, I think I found a long lost brother of you. It's in one of the guys here, one of the newscasters. Looks like he was your, like, hold on here. I'll bring it up. Let's see here. Actually, here, Jim, I'll send it to you. Yeah, here, hold on. This guy looks like your brother. And, there's nothing wrong with, brothers hug. But here, hold on. Where's this guy again? I just looked at it. Here we go. Oh, come on. Wait. Oh, that's why it's got a different account running. It's on the modeling channel. That's why that didn't show up. Okay, here we go, Jim. Tell me this does not look like you.
I'd like to fill in some holes and
Day, if it was up to her.
Does that guy not look like you at all? Does that guy not look like you? You have a brother that lives in Boston. Oh, Unetti made a statement that's less interesting. Okay. There's literally type in Kirsha accent on YouTube, and there's hours of her sounding like an asshole. I'll have to look for that in a second. So, I'm not saying the lady looks like you. I'm saying the guy looks like you, Jim. Oh, he looks like your uncle? Oh, yeah, that's pretty close. All right, so let's listen to this Karen Reed thing. All right, so here's Carrie On Red. Here we go.
there is no case against me.
After 8 weeks.
After 8 weeks, it's smoke and mirrors, and it's going through my private life and trying to contrive a motive that was never there.
Have you thought about what it would be like to be on the witness stand yourself?
Yeah, I have. I'd like to fill in some holes and correct some lies, but it's up to the attorneys, and they'll make the call probably at the 11th hour, and I'm there or not there.
You're lobbying though for your chance to testify?
I'm an outspoken person, and I've never not been able to speak up for myself and my defense, except when it matters the most. I've got to rely on them and their expertise, and I'll defer to the attorneys.
Karen Reed's innocent. They haven't proven anything. Yeah, they're going to lose, and we're going to win. That's my overall assessment.
Damn, that Alan Jackson's just like, they're going to lose, I'm going to win. They're going to lose, I'm going to win. That's a very powerful it's a very powerful statement. Holy cow. Why is she talking? I think they gave her a very short leash. Her dad is standing right there. How dumb is it? I don't know if it's dumb right now. Getting into the trial, she talked to her attorneys. They said, okay, there's a bit of a media battle that has to be waged here. Also, if they know the jurors are watching stuff, they might see her talk, which can help. But I think if it's done carefully, you have to do it very carefully. The thing is, people aren't careful normally. Karen was very careful there. Not a bad interview, honestly, yeah. She sounds like one of the Fall River zombies Frank Castle got threatened by. Oh my god. Is Fall River trivia? Alan Jackson prosecuted Phil Spector. Ooh, interesting. Luke says it was Jackson. I spread misinformation. Well, that you do. That you do. Yeah, Jackson isn't wrong, guys. They haven't proven he's, well, they haven't proven he's even dead yet. I think that's been proven, but they haven't called the medical examiner. Yeah, I assume that's what they're ending on. Why haven't we heard from Proctor? We heard from Trooper Proctor. Trooper Proctor testified already. Great success there. She gives interviews, but she won't sit on the witness stand. Well, yeah, that's the beauty of America. That's how it works. Michael Stetson says jurors who aren't supposed to be watching, you mean? Correct, but you know they are. They are. They are. We all know they are. They say they're not, but we all know the truth. Proctor is another unmitigated disaster for the state. I mean, none of them were really good. None of them were really good. Oh, no mandates means I mean in the media outside of court. What? Oh, Jen McCabe. Yeah, Jen McCabe didn't want to give an interview. So, who knows? Jurors are human. Yes, they are. Jim says, I'll use a broom. I have vacuum. He broke his broom last night. You guys, there were a lot of people getting nuked last night. Bossman Jack hit 200K yesterday? Wow. And he probably lost it all in about 5 minutes. Lucas saying, I put up Karen Reed if I really want to make McCabe look like more of a bitch. I think the contrast of the two on the stand in terms of demeanor is going to be night and day. Yeah, but Karen sounds like she's willing to fight, though. The way she says, like, I've never been afraid to speak my mind. I don't back down. It's like, women, I'm not even saying women, people who normally say that, I speak my mind, I don't back down, are also the same people that can very easily go from talking normally to sounding like an absolute psychopath. So Karen needs to be careful. I don't know if she needs to. Katie's saying, one of us even could be a juror. That would be fucking hilarious. That would be hilarious. After it gets done, it's like, yeah, I listen to this fat guy in Ohio, and he helped me see it right through all the bullshit every day. I went home and listened to the trial afterwards. Lally's not skilled enough to look bad. Yeah. No retreat, no surrender. Yeah, but you gotta be careful. Sure, 13 saying, so all women. Yes. All womens. All womens. The Iceman says it's a terrible idea to put Karen on the stand because they're so far ahead. I think for right now, yeah, for right now, it's not clear. But I get the feeling they're going to feel ahead. Yes, it's a high risk for the gain out of it. You probably already have. If they already think they're winning, it's high risk for low gain. But it's high risk for a massive loss. Am I drinking whiskey? No, just water. Could the jury get the entire court transcript? They asked. No. Nope. They're not entitled to that, and they won't get it. No, and they shouldn't get it. They might have parts of it read back to them, maybe, but that's the most at all of that. Bossman still has 40K in his pocket. Ooh. Yeah. Justin Timberlake got arrested. Yeah, he got a DUI. So, bless you. Thank you. Water and whiskey. Yeah. Hold on. Let's see here. Here, see? Look. Just water, chat. Just water. So, just water. Iceman, I agree with you. By the way, thank you for being here. I don't think I've seen you around before. Thanks for stopping by. The accident reconstruction was the prosecutor's last best chance at getting hard evidence of the actual crime. Yeah, here's the problem, though. It's the expert didn't really flub it. It's kind of like having the search and rescue guys come in, the search teams. Like, this is like they search for stuff, but normally not like this. And the accident reconstruction guy, this is probably not anything he's ever had to do before like this. So I don't blame them. But yes, for the state overall, yes, it's garbage what they're doing. Can the jury review the exhibits on their own in the jury room? Yes. Typically, they get all that to go back with them. Now, there's some places where they're told, "Well, if you ask for an item, we'll send it in." But normally, everything else, they get everything else. Obviously, they can't get the car. It's like, can you bring the car in the jury room? Now, if they want to see the car, let's say they wanted to examine it, they'll have to truck it in, and let's say it's nice outside, like, they might have to truck it into the parking lot, or if there's a sally port, a garage they could take it into, that might happen. It all depends what they can work out. They might want to see the car. So, oh, I've taken your chats a few times, though. My apologies, then. I'm sorry. There's just so many. I don't mean this in a bad way, but there's so many people. But thank you. Thank you very much. You were talking about the Rebens when you were talking about Youngstown last night. I'm confused. No, I was talking about the corruption probe that they have going on down there, and the organized crime task force that was running around down there. Yes. Yes, Trooper Paul saying the crime scene spoke to me. Yes, it said, ease his pain. If you fabricate it, they will convict her. Mark says the defense should create a reconstruction video based on the Commonwealth's report. It will look ridiculous. Yeah, but they might not have the money for that. That actually costs a lot of money. M. Crow is saying, couldn't the Commonwealth could find an expert that would lie for them, so they put in a double cop as their expert. Well, no, that's their expert. That's their crash guy. I guarantee you, he's testified for DUIs and all kinds of other things. This one was outside of his wheelhouse. Trace saying, didn't they already see the car at the viewing of 34 Fairway? Yes, but I would argue they have the right to re-examine that car if they want to. They have the right to say, we want to see the back end of the car again. If they really wanted to, I think they have the right as a jury. But no, it's not that they couldn't find experts. I'm sure they thought their experts are good enough. I guarantee you the state thought they had an airtight case 3 months ago. So let's see here. Blade 2.0 says, can a juror that's the same height as John O'Keefe ask to go stand next to the taillight? Well, that's the thing. Jurors will do that kind of shit. They'll go like in the court, like they'll sit there in that room and they'll probably start talking about like, well, how would that work if I'm standing here and let's say the car hits into me and now they can't sit there and play with it, but they'll talk about it. And part of what you do as a juror, you use your common sense and life experience to help make decisions. And they'd say, look, I've got a car that kind of looks like that, or my brother owns a car, that exact same car. And I'm just telling you, it doesn't make sense. Like hitting it with your elbow or hitting it with your head. And they might have those arguments. They can have any kinds of arguments. They'll do all kinds of Juries will do all kinds of shit to come to a conclusion, good or bad. Can you twirl like AJ? No. So, Luke says, I don't know if it's an exhibit per se. Well, it's a piece of evidence. It had to be shown. I would argue that was an exhibit. But they would have the right to go back and look at it, I think. I would make the argument. Am I leaning more towards incompetence or cover-up? I think I think something happened to John O'Keefe in that house. We don't know what. Then do I think that was part of the cover-up? No, I think there's just massive police incompetence and a little bit of steering along. Like, there's probably a little bit of cover-up by Proctor or Brian Albert. They're a little bit steering stuff along, or Higgins steering stuff along. Like, they did enough to kind of push it towards Karen. Like, think about it like if you're in a pool and there's like a raft in the middle of it and you want to shove it over to someone else. You don't have to like shove it really hard or guide it the whole way. You just have to give it like a little push and it'll start drifting that way. And that's all they did, I think. Iris is saying ARCO is their academic experts who haven't done boots on the ground work. They literally have done boots on the ground work. They've done like military and even professional sports consulting. I mean, the fact that Trooper Paul has walked around and gotten mud on his shoes doesn't really help because he's a bumbling idiot. Aussie Tank says, how are these cops called experts when they only took a class, not like real experts? Because compared to a regular person, they're considered to be knowledgeable, and because courts support junk science all the time. I took a 300-hour training class. It's like, this other guy's a PhD. It's because courts allowed the law enforcement to get away with junk science all the time. I mean, we've seen it. Like, the FBI's hair unit. They admitted they were lying and making shit up now all these years. Like, it just happens all the time. So, yeah. Iris says, Reed's brother works for a Lexus dealership. Ah, cool. So, where are we? The FBI planning. No, I'm not saying. I thought I was reading something else there. No. How many regular people who can't afford AJ and Yannetti are sitting in prison because the police did a shit job? Quite a few. Quite a few. And even then, it's not even affording Yannetti and Alan Jackson. It's we can't afford the experts. I mean, there's other attorneys out there who probably could use the experts too. It's just there wasn't enough money. So yeah, it's very, very, very likely. A lot more than anybody would ever be wanting to admit. Iris is saying, but not a pedestrian hit and reverse at 24.5 miles an hour in the snow. It seems unlikely Arco's dealt with such a scenario. Iris, nobody's dealt with that scenario. Even the Massachusetts State Police have never dealt with that scenario. So they neither of them have. So that would be a response to you. It's like that. It's Trooper Paul and none of these guys have experience. Are these the judge is still biased as fuck? I think she's being very biased today. The Iceman saying, are the experts being provided on the FBI's dime? No. Karen's gonna have to pay for them now. But all the work they did was already paid for by the federal government. So all the work product is free. The reports are free at this point. But paying for them to be available for a couple of days and testifying, that's all money Karen has to provide. Blade is saying, and this is interesting, Could Lexus come in and say it's impossible because we're trying to say our cars don't kill people? No, because they can't intercede. Because the idea is there's automatic stops, but Karen turned those off and hit him and killed him. So no, they wouldn't be able to come in there and defend it like a civil case. Let's go. Brandon says, "Fat man always playing catch up." Ketchup. Brandon says, Clyde. Yes, hold on. While we're at it. Hey, Clyde. Come here, buddy. Click, clack. Hey, buddy, come here. Up. Oh, hi, there you are. Hi. You was so warm. Were you sleeping under the table? You were sleeping under 2.0's desk, weren't you? On your bed. You were getting all snuggly. I know. You lost all your hair. Got a haircut. Oh, you look tired. Hey, come here. Look at me. Look over here. Hi, puppy. Hi, buppers. Hi. All right. And Clyde is the second best looking thing on the screen. Jeez. You're going to not be able to control yourself when that scientist gets back up. Bushmaster says, what happened to him? He got a haircut. No, he did not get the Nick haircut. Brandon says, boof. Boof. Eric Rodriguez is saying, but did these witnesses see the band at the bar? Yes, I don't know if they did. Yes, were there high top tables at the bar, Clyde? Woof. I don't know. Woof. Thank you, Eric. And then EDW Raptor saying, Clyde, did you get a haircut to get rid of all the coke hair for a hair test? No, he did not. He did not know about a follicle test. Oh. I wish I could get a haircut and look thinner. Yeah, that's the thing. I was worried he was getting fat, but he got a haircut and looks good. So it's okay now. He's just a good boy. He runs around. Oh, yeah. Look at that, chat. He looks how I feel right now. Need to go. Yeah, just like that. Just like that. Don't lock Clyde in the bathroom. I never will. It also helps I'm scratching his back leg. Like, you gonna lay back, buddy? Alan Jackson is amazing. A lawyer, aircraft mechanic, and country music singer. Do you want down, Bubba? You're getting a little heavy. Okay. Do you want down? You're kind of looking out there. Yeah, you want to go back to your bed. I get it. I'll put you down. There you go. Glad to know Clyde hasn't been rehome. No, we did not take him up to we didn't take him to Vermont. We never will. So Babs Board Game saying, is he a country music singer? No. There's a country music singer named Alan Jackson. So when he's saying country, no, there's a country singer named Alan Jackson. So, all right, guys. So I think that's it for us today. One more thing from Let's Go Brandon saying, hashtag Clyde for sheriff in 2024. I don't know if Clyde would do a great job of running the jail. That'd be my only reason not to vote for him. So, all All right, guys, we are all set. Tomorrow, I think we'll be able to. What are we? I think I got something. Today's Wednesday. Oh, I do have a thing at 3. So you know what? We might cover it. I have something at 3:00, but we're open most of the day. We'll probably go till like lunch and then we'll stop and then we'll catch up the rest. Yeah, we missed your legal mindset stream. I know he was already doing that, but I didn't know he was doing that this morning until I already started. So we'll probably do part 1 tomorrow, and then we'll probably do a part 2 in the afternoon. Yes, today's Juneteenth. Clyde would eat all the bologna at the jail. Yes, he would. KJ said, "Where's channel merch?" I'll work on. I gotta figure out something to make it funny, but I'll work on that. So, all right, guys. Until tomorrow. Remember, Karen Reed still not guilty, still not convinced. This has been a pathetic presentation of evidence by the prosecutor. So, yes, guys, we will be on at 9 a.m. tomorrow to deal with Karen, and we will get her stuff going, guys. So, take care, everybody, and have a nice Juneteenth. Later tonight, we will be doing the members only stream. We've got some body cam stuff to hang around with and do. Should be a fun time for everyone. So, that'll be probably about 8:00. Actually, 8:30. 8:30 is when we'll do that. It'll be 8:30, and we'll be hanging out and having a fun time. So I will see you guys later tonight, and take care, everybody.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops. Even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. But please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick Hayden yelled at? Why, yes, it was. He